Our story unfolds in a well-known company where our protagonist Li Shulai, at the age of 28, made a decisive decision. He chose to quit the rat race and resign from one of the top 100 companies in the country. As he packed up his belongings and prepared to leave, he was pleasantly surprised to see his friends, who had worked with him, come to see him off. His friends congratulated him and wished their team leader a bright future. Moments later, Li Shulai invited his friends to a 5-star hotel to throw a farewell party. During the party, one of his friends with green hair exclaimed, "I can't believe you actually resigned. It wasn't easy to reach this position, and Mr. Guo thought highly of you. Your future promotions and wealth were guaranteed." Li Shulai replied with a big smile. "I've made peace with myself. I want to lie flat, be a salted fish, enjoy life, and spend more time with my girlfriend. I don't want to compete anymore." A girl with blue hair asked, "What are you going to do next?" Li Shulai responded, "I'm planning to open a cafe, play with cats, and walk dogs." Seeing how idyllic his future sounded, the girl with blue hair got excited and said, "Wow, that's great. No more 24/7 work. You'll be your own boss." Team leader, "I'm so envious of you for quitting just like that. Unfortunately, I have a mortgage and a car loan. If I don't work, I'll default on my payments." Another friend of Li Shulai chimed in, "When your cafe becomes successful, I'll bring clients to drink coffee there. You must give us a discount." Li Shulai assured them, "Don't worry, I'll treat everyone." Everyone stood up from their seats, raised their wine glasses, and toasted, "If we get rich, let's not forget each other." Sometime later, after Li Shulai opened his cafe, it thrived, becoming a popular local spot with its unique decor, attracting countless visitors. Li Shulai was filled with hope for the future, feeling that everything was going well. Standing in front of his cafe with his girlfriend, he said, "Gaifan, did you know? Last month, our cafe's net profit was 100,000 yen." He assured his girlfriend Guifan, "At this rate, we'll recover our initial investment in just one more year." Guifan, amazed by Li Shulai's ambition, said, "Darling, you're amazing." At that time, Li Shulai thought that resigning and risking everything to start a trendy cafe with over 1,000,000 yuan in investment was the best decision of his life. But then, one day, bulldozers arrived to destroy his cafe. He demanded they stop and asked, "What are you doing?" The construction manager replied, "This land has been requisitioned by our leading group. All irrelevant personnel must leave." Li Shulai, shocked, told them he hadn't heard anything about a demolition and demanded that they couldn't go through with it. The construction manager, Wang, told Li Shulai, "You should ask your landlord about this. I'm just doing my job." Another man asked, "Brother Wang, what's going on? Who's this guy?" Li Shulai insisted, "Hold off on the demolition. Thank you for watching. Let me clarify the situation first." The man urged him to hurry, saying, "Our project manager has a 3-day schedule for this area." In shock, Li Shulai called his landlord, thinking, "Landlord, you need to explain why I was told today that the property I just rented and renovated is being demolished." Brother Wang, observing Li Shulai, wondered, "This guy seems to have rented this place. Doesn't he know it was planned for demolition long ago?" Another worker remarked, "That's really unlucky." The landlord asked Li Shulai, "Didn't I tell you about this?" He then apologized, saying, "I might have forgotten because I was busy. Anyway, that's the situation now." He advised Li Shulai to hire a moving company to take his stuff away. Angry, Li Shulai demanded, "What about the money I spent on renovations and marketing?" The landlord smiled and replied, "It's demolition. There's nothing we can do. We have to follow the city's development plans. Besides, isn't demolition for the city's betterment?" Li Shulai, still upset, argued, "You had an obligation to inform me about the demolition before renting the place to me. Now you need to compensate me for the losses, or it counts as a breach of contract." The landlord laughed and said, "Compensate? I didn't say I wouldn't. I'll cover your moving expenses later." Brother Wang, observing the situation, remarked, "This kid seems young and inexperienced. Starting a business these days, you can't just think about making money. You have to consider all the risks." Another man agreed, adding, "Cash flow is still the most important." Fuming, Li Shulai accused the landlord, "You deliberately hid the information. Isn't this a scam?" The landlord, hearing this, responded, "Do you understand force majeure? Sue me if you want. Here's a piece of advice. Never skimp on hiring a lawyer. Do you even have money?" He continued, "I already gave you a big discount when you rented the place. Besides, when we signed the contract that morning, I really didn't know about the demolition. I found out in the afternoon and then got busy and forgot. Haven't you made a lot of money these past few months?" The landlord then laughed and said, "I'll give you an extra 10,000 yuan as compensation. That's my best offer." Li Shulai, frustrated, remembered overhearing the landlord talking to his family about spending 170,000 yuan per person on an Antarctic tour package, where the rooms below deck were supposedly uninhabitable. Yet here he was, offering only 10,000 yuan as compensation. The landlord told Li Shulai, "I have urgent matters to attend to, and we'll talk about this later. and then hung up the phone. Li Shulai, furious and unsure of what to do, watched as the construction workers began their work. He angrily remarked, "Do you think I'll just let you bully me like this? This is my hope, my future that I've poured everything into. I will protect it with my own hands." Afterward, he went home and made some calls to people he knew, hoping for help. However, everyone either ignored his calls or made excuses. Disappointed and at a loss for what to do, Li Shulai felt utterly helpless. Li Shulai sent a message to the landlord, asking him to at least refund the rent for the past 3 years. However, the landlord blocked him. Feeling depressed and sad, he heard his girlfriend Guifan call his name. Li Shulai was happy to see Guifan back, thinking, "Fortunately, there's still Guifan, always by my side." Guifan asked Li Shulai if he had thought of a solution. Li Shulai tried to reassure her, saying, "Don't worry too much. We can start over. I calculated that selling the tables, chairs, and coffee machines could get us 100,000 to 200,000 yuan to cover urgent needs, and the landlord just needs to return the rent, giving us another few 100,000 yuan. Next time, we'll be more cautious in choosing a location. Using our previous reputation, we can open a community store. It won't be a problem to make a living." However, Guifan then brought up Zhao Lide. Li Shulai, feeling a surge of anger, asked, "Is he harassing you again?" Guifan shook her head and replied, "No, I wanted to talk about us. I think we should break up." Li Shulai was shocked to hear this. The girl he liked, for whom he had done everything, was breaking up with him now that he had no money. He held Guifan's hands and asked her, "Why? Don't you believe I can overcome this hurdle? Just give me some more time and I'll solve this issue. I've solved my previous work problems well, and even climbed higher." Guifan moved closer to Li Shulai, speaking emotionally, "I actually want to help you. Zhao Lide is very generous. I haven't agreed to be with him yet, but he already gave me a platinum bag worth tens of thousands of yuan." She showed him the luxurious bag that Zhao Lide had given her, adding, "He's really generous." Surprised, Li Shulai asked Guifan, "How could you accept his gift while being with me?" Guifan didn't respond directly, but thought to herself, "That old man Zhao Lide gave me too much. Less work, more money. Who can resist such temptation? But there's still a bit of reluctance. Shulai is capable, handsome, strong, gentle, and considerate." She then told Li Shulai, "Zhao Lide, he's old, and it seems he won't live for many more years. I'll agree to be with him for now. Once I stabilize things with him, I can secretly help you. We'll just go from being public to secret. I truly love you, Shulai. You're the only one I love, being with Zhao Lide. I can also help you solve your current crisis." He promised that if I agreed to be with him, he'd immediately give me 1 million yuan. With this 1 million yuan, we could save the cafe. However, Li Shulai pushed her away, shouting angrily, "Even if I'm destitute and homeless, I won't be a cuckold, relying on a woman selling her body to support me. I've seen what shamelessness is. Get lost, Jifan." Hearing this, Jifan became furious. Who wants to be with a man deep in debt, unable to afford rent? She spat, turning to leave, but before she walked away, she warned, "Don't come back begging me with your head down." Li Shulai, still enraged, yelled after her, "Get lost. I don't ever want to see your face again." Sometime later, it began to rain heavily. Li Shulai wandered through the streets drenched and despondent, trying to figure out what to do next. He thought about selling his coffee machines and other items from the cafe, but the buyer told him that second-hand coffee machines these days are sold by weight. They're not worth as much as he had hoped. And those tables and chairs, how much could they sell for? Now he had nowhere to live. The house he had been renting was no longer available to him, because debt collectors were causing trouble every day. They had splashed the door with red paint so many times that the landlord had kicked him out. Every day, the debt collectors demanded to know when he would pay back the money, coming to threaten him relentlessly, frustrated and disappointed. Li Shulai didn't know what to do. He returned to where his cafe had once stood, now demolished, and thought, "I clearly overcame the hardest step, seized the opportunity and succeeded in my business. Why am I encountering such a low probability event? Why am I at such a dead end?" He looked up at the sky and asked God, "Are you playing with me? If you want to play, then play me to death." Sitting in the middle of the construction site, he took out a cigarette and muttered to himself, "I will overcome these difficulties." But it seemed that fate had other plans. The brakes of a construction crane suddenly failed, and it collapsed on top of Li Shulai. At the age of 28, Li Shulai died from being crushed by the crane, losing too much blood. Even after death, he couldn't accept his fate. He found himself watching his own body as the police and ambulance arrived, taking care of the scene. He thought, "Good people get good rewards. That's just a myth. In the end, it's people like me who suffer." But then something strange happened. He noticed a golden light emerging from the spot where his cafe had once stood. As he approached, the golden light grew more intense. Li Shulai covered his eyes, wondering, why is there a shimmering golden light? Suddenly a series of notifications began popping up in front of him, saying, Project 986 initiated, Project 212 initiated, Penguin Company established, Alibaba established, Baidu established, Baidu established. Confused, Li Shulai wondered, is this what they call life flashing before your eyes? More notifications appeared. Beijing won the right to host the 2008 Olympics, joined the WTO, house prices skyrocketed, Shenzhou 6 launched into space, Qinghai Tibet Railway opened, and many more. These were all events he had experienced in his life, but now they seemed to matter little to him. However, it wasn't just his life events that he saw. He also saw galaxies and floating islands in space. The most shocking sight was people fighting a demon-like being. Confused, he wondered, what are these things? They're getting more abstract. As he tried to approach them, he suddenly fell into a ditch. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a classroom, sitting next to someone. The boy sitting beside him asked if he was okay. Li Shulai looked at the boy and was shocked. Zhang Ming, are you dead too? Zhang Ming, puzzled, asked, are you all right? Don't say such unlucky things in broad daylight. Li Shulai stood up from his seat and looked around, wondering, is this heaven? At least I did good deeds all my life, so let me go to heaven. Zhang Ming, confused, asked, have you changed? Why are you even sleeping through old man Guo's class? Isn't it your favorite class? What's up, dreaming of being paralyzed or something? Professor Guo noticed Li Shulai and asked, why are you suddenly standing up in the middle of class? Li Shulai was stunned upon seeing Professor Guo, because in his previous life, Professor Guo had been a great benefactor to him. When his family was poor during his school days, Professor Guo supported him in many ways and helped him apply for scholarships, allowing him to continue his studies. But unfortunately, good people don't always get good rewards. Professor Guo had committed suicide by jumping off a building in Li Shulai's senior year due to false accusations from a rich second-generation girl, Zhang Shuilai. Zhang Shuili had falsely accused Professor Guo of forcing her to sleep with him in order to pass her thesis defense. Professor Guo tried to explain to everyone that it wasn't true, insisting that Zhang Shuili was talking nonsense and that he had never said such things to her. However, no one believed him. Zhang Shuilai, being from a wealthy and powerful family, used her influence to trap him. Unable to bear the shame and the false accusations, Professor Guo tragically committed suicide. That's how Li Shulai's benefactor died unjustly and undeservedly, right in front of him. Seeing Professor Guo again, Li Shulai became emotional and hugged him tightly, saying, Professor Guo, I knew with your character you would definitely go to heaven. Thank you so much for nurturing me. Without your careful guidance, I wouldn't have been able to make it here. You must be ready to reincarnate, right? How many numbers ahead? I should calculate when I can reincarnate too. I wish you a good reincarnation, full of wealth and glory. Professor Guo grabbed a book and hit Li Shulai on the head. What are you talking about? Are you in a rush to reincarnate and dragging me along? How much cat piss did you drink yesterday? Zhang Ming quickly came to Li Shulai's rescue and told Professor Guo, Shulai hit his head this morning and isn't thinking clearly. You're magnanimous, so just take it as him being confused. Don't mind it. Then Zhang Ming turned to Li Shulai and asked, what's wrong with you today? Doing silly things in front of Guo Qianwu. Hurry up and get back to your seat. Do you want to fail? See if you're dreaming or if you're in class. Surprised, Li Shulai wondered what Zhang Ming meant, but as he looked around, he realized he was in a classroom. Shocked, he quietly returned to his seat. Zhang Ming then advised, go wash your face after class. I told you not to stay up late studying at night. You've studied yourself silly, still confused. Li Shulai wondered, why does heaven look like my university classroom? He looked around to confirm what was going on and saw the school beauty, Zhang Ming, sitting behind him. Surprised, Li Shulai thought, I never heard anything happen to her later. How did they all die so young? However, Li Shulai received a disdainful look from Zhang Ming, the goddess of his university. Upon seeing this, he started to cry like a baby, thinking even in death, I embarrassed myself in front of her. Seeing Li Shulai's childish act, Zhang Ming's friend remarked, Li Shulai, he's trying to get your attention, but he's got issues. What girl would like being pursued this way? Li Shulai overheard their conversation and glared at Zhang Ming's friend, angered by her words. Frightened, Zhang Ming's friend asked, why are you giving me that look? She then turned to Zhang Ming saying, don't fall for a creepy guy like Li Shulai. Xiaoning replied confidently, of course not. And I never will, he's just seeking attention. Zhang Ming, noticing the situation, whispered to Li Shulai, sit properly. Professor Guo is watching you and stop looking at the goddess. Professor Guo was indeed observing Li Shulai's childish antics. Feeling the weight of Professor Guo's stern gaze, Li Shulai's whole body started to feel cold. thinking teacher Guo was so serious both before and after his death. As Li Shulai's eyes wandered, he noticed the book on financial markets and investments that he had studied during his college days. Seeing so many familiar details, he began to realize this doesn't seem like heaven, and it's too coincidental that they all died. Finance and investment. This was a course I took in my 3rd year, unless it's the end of the world and everyone is dead. But he quickly dismissed that thought, remembering how he died and the events that led to it. Finally, he came to a conclusion. Then, it must be the most classic and common novel trope. As he pondered this deeply, suddenly the classroom bell rang, signaling the end of class. Everyone began filing out of the classroom, leaving Li Shulai to process the surreal situation he found himself in. After class, Zhang Ming came close to Li Shulai and asked, "What's wrong with you? Did something happen at home? You've been out of it all class." Zhang Ming offered his support, saying, "If something's wrong, tell me. I'll do what I can to help. A nightmare shouldn't make you this distracted. This must mean something happened at home." He handed Li Shulai 100 yuan, saying, "Don't worry too much. All problems will be solved." However, Li Shulai refused, saying, "I can't take this. It's enough for a month's living expenses." Jiang Ming insisted, "Don't worry, we're like brothers. I have plenty of living expenses. Even after giving you this, I still have over 400 left." Seeing Li Shulai still hesitating, Jiang Ming told him, "Consider it an investment. You can pay me back when you become rich. My dad told me your parents' small business has a lot of potential. If my parents kick me out for being wasteful, I can come to you reluctantly." Li Shulai accepted the money, saying, "I'll take this as a loan and I'll pay you back double when I have the money." Jiang Ming smiled and said, "Don't worry too much. Just eat more meat today." Later that night in their college dorm, Li Shulai found himself unable to sleep. He was still thinking about how he had returned to his 3rd year of college back in 1998. Whatever the reason, he felt like he had hit the jackpot. He remembered when he died, passing through the darkness. Those events' timelines from recent to distant were all etched in his mind. That must have been time travel, he thought. But why were there also scenes of monks fighting in floating islands, other dimensions? He decided to forget about the strange visions, focusing instead on the information gap he could now exploit. Li Shulai began laughing quietly to himself, remembering the future events he knew were coming. Hearing Li Shulai laughing in the middle of the night, Jiang Ming got irritated and said, "Are you still not sleeping? What are you laughing at under the covers? The bed frame is creaking nonstop. It's annoying." Li Shulai apologized and promised to sleep quietly, but he couldn't help but smile, knowing there was still time to change everything. Jiang Ming, worried about Li Shulai, thought, "He's been distracted all day, looking like he owes millions. And now he's laughing after being scolded at night. Hopeless." Li Shulai finally drifted off to sleep, thinking, "Heaven gave me a second chance. A new life. I must work harder than before. I have to help those I couldn't help in the past. I can't watch them repeat the same fate." He made up his mind that those who had made his previous life a living hell would not get the better of him this time. In this life, he vowed, "I won't repeat those mistakes. I'll seize every opportunity this era brings and become the richest man." The next morning in the study room, since Li Shulai has been reborn and given a fresh start, he decides that he needs to plan carefully for the next few years. Starting in 1998, China's economy is set to undergo a major transformation. After certain policies in 2003, housing prices will skyrocket. But there's a big problem. His family's savings aren't enough to afford a house, and without initial capital, flipping houses is impossible. Stock market investments, the internet, and technology exports. None of these are viable options right now. Even though he has been reborn, the start is still like hell mode, where he must begin everything from scratch. To turn things around and multiply his assets, capital accumulation from 1998 to 2003 is crucial. However, he doesn't have to worry too much, as he can use the information gap to offset the disadvantage of lacking starting capital. Thinking about this, he starts to laugh. Zheng Ming calls out to him, asking, "What are you thinking about? You've been acting strange since yesterday." Li Shulai quickly covers the book, where he has written everything about the major future changes. Zheng Ming glances at it and asks, "What's the secret?" 2003, 1998, finance computers. "What? Are you changing majors? Isn't finance a great major? You'll be a trader." Li Shulai shakes his head, saying, "No, I'm not planning to change my major. I'm just planning ahead for jobs, since my family's situation isn't great." Zheng Ming confidently tells Li Shulai, "With your grades, at worst you'll get into a bank. That's a secure job. Be content." Upon hearing this, Li Shulai remembers that in his previous life, after graduating from college, he applied for a bank job. The bank manager told him that, while he was satisfied with him, all the slots were full. Li Shulai had really wanted to work at a bank after graduation, But back then, the recruitment process wasn't transparent. Without any connections, he was directly eliminated. Li Shulai then says to Zhang Ming, "I think your dad is right. My parents' small business indeed has good prospects, but they think farming is easier and want to go back to it. I'm trying to figure out how to persuade them." Li Shulai had Zhang Ming's dad was right. If his parents had persisted in their business in his previous life, they wouldn't have made a fortune, but they could have become moderately well off. Instead, they gave up after 3 years and returned to farming. Fortunately, the farming turned out well. His dad was clever, and while they didn't achieve significant prosperity, they were never hungry. Seeing Li Shulai so confident, Zhang Ming says, "I'll talk to my dad and analyze the prospects. We'll use practical theories to help persuade your parents. Don't worry too much." Li Shulai feels a wave of relief and happiness, saying, "That's great." But Zhang Ming adds, "My dad is quite busy now. The downtown restaurant we just opened isn't stable yet, and he's tied up with that." Upon hearing this, Li Shulai remembers that in his previous life, Uncle Zhang had done well in business, but later offended someone, leading to bankruptcy. Zhang Ming disappeared after that. He still recalls the moment when Zhang Ming, in tears, told him he was leaving the city, saying, "I don't know when we'll meet again, but you must succeed. I believe in you. You can do it." Li Shulai didn't expect Zhang Ming's fate to be so tragic in his previous life, so he gives Zhang Ming some advice. When growing a business, it's essential to keep liquid funds, avoid breaking the capital chain, and be wary of petty people. Your dad is a good man, but he speaks straightforwardly. I have heard that business is like a battlefield. One misstep, and you could fall into someone's trap. Be careful. Zhang Ming, hearing this, laughs and says, "You're talking like an old man. Don't worry too much. My dad surely knows these things. We don't need to stress. Come on, class is over. Let's go to the bathhouse." Seeing Zhang Ming so carefree and happy, Li Shulai thinks, if I tell him now that his dad's business will fail, he'll think I'm cursing them. In the future, he needs to keep an eye out for this petty person and help them when necessary. After all, Zhang Ming never looked down on his poor family for 3 years. He always ordered extra food when they ate in the cafeteria, pretending he couldn't finish it, and then giving it to Li Shulai. Knowing Li Shulai's family situation, he often found excuses to give him money, saying, "You think I'm lending you money for free? When you're rich, I'll charge you high interest." He had protected Li Shulai so much before. Now it was Li Shulai's turn to protect him. Later that night, in the student bathhouse, while taking a bath, Li Shulai was deep in thought. With my current skills and family background, standing out in the finance industry is tough. In his previous life, without a degree from a prestigious school, he couldn't find a good job after graduation. Fortunately, he had decisively switched to the computer industry. And after years of persistence and effort, I'm going to tell you a story. He had made some achievements in programming. Now he needed to pick up his old trade and seek opportunities in the internet sector because in the coming years the internet would rapidly develop and many prominent figures would emerge. As long as I seize the opportunity, I can ride on other success and become a winner. He recalled that in 1999 young Fei Long would establish Fei Long Technology in Hangzhou City. Just 8 months away, isn't this the first opportunity delivered to me, he thought. With his skills from a few years later, he'd be a top programmer now. If he could secure a position at Fei Long Technology, his assets would surely multiply. Once he had accumulated initial capital, he could go further and climb higher. With this, he could not only rewrite his own destiny, but also change China's destiny, making it a dominant global power. Suddenly, he noticed that his soap had slipped from his hands. As he bent down to pick it up, he felt a sudden coolness. Turning his head back, he saw Zhang Ming standing behind him, smiling. The soap fell on the floor. "Why aren't you picking it up?" Zhang Ming asked. Li Shulai quickly stood up without even picking up the soap. Li Shulai told Zhang Ming, "Don't speak in riddles. I'm a straightforward guy." Zhang Ming laughed, saying he was just joking. He grabbed his clothes and headed out for his shower, telling Li Shulai, "Take your time showering." But suddenly, Li Shulai noticed a golden light emerging from Zhang Ming's body. Startled, he shouted, causing Zhang Ming to turn back in surprise. "What's wrong?" Zhang Ming asked. The golden light began to flow into Li Shulai's body, leaving him in shock. What is this golden light? He wondered. Then he remembered that in his previous life, just before he died, he had seen the same golden light at the cafe. It was the same light he saw while time traveling. Li Shulai called out to Zhang Ming, asking, "Have you noticed any golden light on you?" Zhang Ming, confused, asked, "What are you talking about? Is it Ultraman's light? I don't see any golden light on you. Have you been watching too much TV?" He then told Li Shulai, "Don't startle me like that. You scared me." Li Shulai looked at his hand, but the golden light had vanished. Confused, he wondered if it was some kind of illusion brought on by his time traveling. Zhang Ming, noticing that Li Shulai had been acting strangely lately, advised him, just take a good shower and relax. If it doesn't get better, let's go to the school clinic tomorrow for a checkup. However, Li Shulai remained puzzled, still wondering what exactly the golden light was. Sometime later at the college cafeteria, Xianing's friend asked her, "Have you noticed that Li Shulai hasn't been around much lately? We used to run into him all the time." Xianing, noticing how much her friend was talking about Li Shulai, responded, "You seem to care about him a lot. If he appears, he appears. If he disappears, he disappears. It's none of my business." Her friend shook her head. "It's not like that. I think he's realized he can't get your attention, so he's found a new target." Xianing also found this strange, because Li Shulai used to ask about her often. Whatever elective she chose, he would choose too. He would even come to the library when she went. He was always present in class, sitting in noticeable spots to catch her attention. But now he often skips class, and even when he does attend, he sits in the back reading other books. What is he up to? Xianing wondered. As she was thinking about this, her friend nudged her, saying, "Xianing, look, speak of the devil, there he is. The big romantic is turned into a bookworm. Is he preparing for graduate exams?" They both saw him approaching, deeply engrossed in his notes, planning and writing about future opportunities he knew of. He couldn't afford to wait 8 months to approach Yang Filong. It would be too late by then. Yang Filong's business empire had overlooked some key issues in its early stages, and Li Shulai needed to identify these problems as soon as possible. He was so absorbed in his thoughts about future events that he didn't even notice Xianing and her friend. Jianing, seeing him like this, thought, "So he's playing hard to get with me. Some people just can't change their habits." Li Shulai was so focused on his book that he didn't see her and accidentally bumped into her. Xianing's lunchbox fell to the ground, spilling its contents. Angrily, she confronted him. "Are you pretending not to see us? We didn't even move, and you bumped into us." Li Shulai quickly apologized, saying he didn't mean to. But Xianing was too upset. She snapped, "How long are you going to stalk me like this? Don't try to get my attention with these tactics. I don't fall for hard-to-get games. Do you know how much trouble and annoyance this behavior causes?" Li Shulai picked up the lunchbox from the floor and apologized again, admitting it was all his fault. He offered her money as compensation and said, "If you need, I can get you another portion." However, Xianing, still irritated, replied, "1 yuan doesn't make a difference to anyone. Just don't bother me again. Next time, watch where you're going, or if you get hit by a car crossing the street, whose fault will it be?" she advised sternly. Li Shulai, upon hearing Xianing's words, simply said, "All right, you're a good person," and then drifted back into his thoughts, considering how young Fei Long's problems had been reported by the media many times in his past life. Seeing Li Shulai so nonchalant, Xianing's friend was surprised and said, "No way, is he crazy to just leave like that? Did he not understand your sarcasm?" Xianing was also confused, thinking, "I can tell it's a hard-to-get game, but is he really still playing it? His skin is really thick." Her friend then suggested, "Could he have actually lost interest in you? He didn't even look at you. In the past, he'd cling to you and rush to help you with everything. Now, he just throws money at the problem." Xianing, getting angrier, replied, "Maybe because I pointed out his intentions, it must have hurt his pride." She told her friend to wait while she went to get another meal, thinking, "Is this game fun for you? Do you really think I'd fall for such little tricks?" A moment later, at the cafeteria dining area, Xianing approached Li Shulai and said, "I have something to tell you." Li Shulai, surprised, asked, "What is it?" Xianing's cheeks turned red as she started to blush, stammering, You still ask me what it is." Frustrated, she then snapped, "Nothing, just eat your food." She thought to herself, "I hope you choke on it." Li Shulai, unfazed, simply told Xianing to eat as well, before turning back to his food and notes. Xianing sat down, watching him intensely focus on his books, paying no attention to her. She thought, "What's wrong with him? I've been sitting here for 3 minutes, and he's only focused on shoveling food and looking at his notebook. He's really holding back from saying a word to me." Suddenly, Li Shulai noticed something and looked up. Xianing thought, "Is he about to burst and talk to me now?" But then she realized he wasn't looking at her. Curiously, she wondered who he was looking at. As he turned, she saw a girl with blonde hair. Zhang Shuilai, Xianing thought. So he's fallen for someone else. Zhang Shuilai dresses up flashy every day, and her family is rich. Indeed, there aren't many men who don't like that kind of woman. Xianing sneered. A toad cannot dream of eating swan meat. Do you even know what kind of person Zhang Shuili is? Li Shulai, in your next life, be born into a better family if you want to pursue someone like her. Li Shulai calmly replied, "You misunderstand, but I don't need to explain it to you." He finished his meal and said to Xianing, "You can do as you please. I'm leaving." Xianing was taken aback by his response and retorted, "Don't be too much. What Xiaoning didn't understand was that Lai Shulai wasn't looking at Zhang Shuilai because he liked her. It was because of what he remembered from his previous life. Professor Guo's life was completely ruined by Zhang Shuilai's scheming. Not only did she destroy his career, but she also used her wealth and influence as a second-generation rich kid to twist the truth, bribe the media, and force him into a corner. Even his wife and child's lives were affected. They were ostracized, judged at work and school, and publicly shamed. To prove his innocence, Professor Guo had pleaded to the media, insisting that throughout his life, he had been loyal to his wife, responsible toward his students, devoted to his son, and diligent in his work, always upholding his principles. Yet, he ended up as the target of destructive rumors, which spread like wildfire. Professor Guo, unable to clear his name, chose death as a means to prove his innocence, hoping to be remembered as an honest man. In his final words, he declared that he had never coerced or sexually harassed any student. He had no regrets in life, except for the pain he had caused his wife and child. After saying those last words, he jumped from the college building in front of everyone. When Li Shulai arrived at the scene back then, he saw only the tragic sight of a falling body. The heartbreak he felt was indescribable. The professor's wife and child also witnessed everything, their hearts shattered. Unable to bear the loss, the professor's wife later committed suicide, leaving their 10-year-old son to be raised by others. A good family was destroyed just like that. But the real culprit, Zhang Shuili, was enjoying her life without a care in the world. She scoffed. That old man thought proving his innocence by dying would affect me. How laughable, her friends agreed, saying exactly. Besides, he was already old. Sooner or later, he would have died anyway. Dying earlier just saves on burial costs. Zhang Shuili felt no remorse, knowing that whatever happened, her father could handle it with money. It's better he's dead. No evidence left. Life is precious. Why seek death? She added callously. Li Shulai, who had overheard everything by chance, felt a surge of anger. Zhang Shuilai, you may never die well, he thought. Coming back to the present, he reflected, pursue her. Why would I pursue her? Not only will I not pursue her, but I'll also make her pay for her crimes. Xiaoning, noticing the anger on Li Shulai's face, grew frightened. Li Shulai, her reaction, said, I know what you think of me. You believe I liked you, but now I don't. And you think I've turned my attention to another woman. That's why you're upset and sarcastic with me. He then asked her, in the finance industry we study, do you know what's most important? Xiaoning replied confidently, of course I know. These are basic concepts from class, forward-looking vision, and persistent perseverance. Li Shulai laughed. Wrong. It's liquidity funds. Without liquidity, the capital market collapses. He continued explaining, the financial wizards you'll meet in the future. Their success largely depends on risk management and optimizing their liquidity. Whether it's stocks, bonds, futures, or derivatives, the principle is the same. As he spoke, Xiaoning found herself lost in his words. What on earth is this guy talking about? She wondered. But at the same time, it seems to make a lot of sense. Li Shulai advised her, just burying your head in books will make you a bookworm. You should start thinking about more serious things. Xiaoning was confused. Is he serious? She wondered. What was he even talking about? It felt like he was looking down on her. But deep down, she knew he didn't mean it that way at all. Before she could ask for clarification, he disappeared from in front of her. Frustrated, she shouted, Li Shulai. In anger, I got lectured and didn't even talk back, she thought, her mind racing, with 1,000 ways she could have responded. Next time, for sure. Meanwhile, outside, Li Shulai was thinking, Xiangxi Yumi, Ma Xiaoning is nothing special. How did I not realize in my past life that Mei Xiaoning was so shallow? As he recalled the past, he remembered that Xiaoning's friend once told her, I think Li Shulai really likes you. He seems like an honest guy. Why don't you consider him? People often say that marrying an honest person is a good choice, proving that honest people are still valued in the marriage market. However, Xiaoning told her friend, don't compare me to just any random guy. It makes me sick. But if he wants to go after me, let him. If he wants to be nice to me, I can't stop him. In his past life, Li Shulai realized his perspective was too narrow. Being a sycophant, he was smitten by the slightest kindness from Xiaoning. He was completely infatuated with her. Who knows how much time he wasted? He even told Zheng Ming, the school beauty glanced at me. Could it be that she's starting to change her opinion of me? But now, when he remembers those things, he feels nothing but frustration. Because in Xiaoning's eyes, he was just a pushover. But in this life, he resolved, I will cherish my time and start by not being a pushover. Rather than trying so hard only to become a laughingstock, it's better to become strong and unattainable. Building a business is better than dating. Yang Feilong's looks were always mocked, yet many people chased after him, calling him Dragon Dad, and beauties were always surrounding him. Appearance, inherent flaws, or low status. What do they matter? When power and strength gather within you, all these things become the finery that showcases your ability. Rejecting fake social games and focusing on the pursuit of wealth and power is the way forward. What I want, I will get. What I once didn't dare to imagine, which could only exist as daydreams, I will achieve it in this life. Moments later, in the boys' dormitory, Jiang Ming invited Li Shulai over to his place to watch the game tonight, mentioning that his parents were out for a business dinner so they could watch all night. Li Shulai remembered that today was the World Cup group stage match between Japan and Croatia. Japan loses badly and fails to advance. Li Shulai told Jiang Ming, "I'm not going. I haven't finished the study plan I set for myself today." He thought to himself, this game, which I've watched hundreds of times in my past life, how can it be more interesting than making progress on my plans? Time waits for no one. I need to start making progress, securing Fei Long Tech and achieving step 1. Jiang Ming, surprised, asked, "Are you serious? It's the World Cup. The World Cup that happens once every 4 years and you're not watching. You haven't really become a bookworm from studying too much. It's just the two of us. Are you still pretending to be a model student around me?" Li Shulai replied, "I don't need to watch to know the result. I already know who's going to win." Jiang Ming didn't believe him, accusing him of bluffing and asked, "Do you dare to bet with me?" Li Shulai responded confidently, "Bring it on. I'm not afraid." Jiang Ming proposed, "Whoever loses washes the winner's underwear and smelly socks. And by the way, I have socks piled up under my mattress just waiting for you to wash them." Li Shulai smiled and said, "No problem. Although, after hearing you, Jiang Ming, I wondered why there was a faint smell of soy sauce in the dorm." "Turns out it's you," Jiang Ming laughing said. "I bet Brazil will definitely win this time. They're a traditional football powerhouse. No doubt about it," Li Shulai countered. "I bet France beats Brazil 3-0, and Japan loses tonight without scoring a single goal." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ming exclaimed, "Are you deliberately talking nonsense? You really want to wash my underwear and socks that badly? Don't turn gay just from picking up a bar of soap, okay? Buddy, I'm straight." Li Shulai, now angry, retorted, "Get lost. Starting today, I won't wash my socks. I'll just wait for you to wash them for me." Moments later, back at the boys' dormitory, Jiang Ming started laughing and told Li Shulai, "I'm definitely going to win. There's nothing to be afraid of." Speaking of which, he asked, "Didn't you mention how prosperous the gambling industry is abroad? Who knows how many people get rich overnight because of the World Cup?" Jiang Ming wondered aloud, "When will they allow gambling in our country? I want to get rich overnight too. If I were abroad, I'd definitely be a gambling god." Li Shulai, who actually knew a lot about this, remembered that in his past life he was a hardcore soccer fan. He could recite the scores and results of all past tournaments by heart. Guessing the outcome was a piece of cake for him. He recalled that in 2001, a football lottery was introduced domestically. In a perfect scenario, it could indeed make anyone rich overnight. Rapidly accumulating wealth, however, as good as reincarnation might seem, the butterfly effect is a terrifying thing. Who knows if a butterfly flapping its wings might cause a tornado? Besides, he needed to figure out quickly what those golden lights were all about. In his past life, his luck was incredibly bad. Even though everything was in place, he always fell short by one move. He wondered, what if all my luck in this life was used up just to be reborn? If I lose the advantage of foresight after winning 2 or 3 times, wouldn't that be a loss? For now, he realized he should try to maintain the timeline, let events happen as they originally did, and not make any changes. He told Jiang Ming, "Gambling is essentially just that, gambling. It's very risky and not something to be touched. Dreams are beautiful, but reality is harsh. In practice, it's not as simple as guessing wins and losses correctly. You only see those who get rich overnight looking glamorous, but not those who lose everything and end up in poverty." He advised Jiang Ming, "For ordinary people like us, without any backing or connections, winning once or twice might be fine. But if you keep winning every time, wouldn't people suspect something fishy? What if they arrest you for investigation? Who knows which big shot might take offense and have you taken out? You might end up being kidnapped and thrown into the sea, not even knowing which big shot you offended, even if you lost. Luckily, get that much money. Without some means of violent protection, you might have your throat slit the next day. Your family destroyed, people dead, having money but no life to spend it on." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ming was really scared. His whole body started shaking. He said to Shulai, "I never realized you knew so much." Li Shulai gave his sermons like Buddha. Li Shulai turned to Jiang Ming and said, "My friend, say no to prostitution, gambling, and drugs. Be a positive youth. Promise me, okay?" After hearing what Li Shulai said, Jiang Ming's eyes filled with tears. "After listening to you, I feel like a righteous person," he exclaimed. Then he asked, "Did something really happen to you? Your thoughts have become so profound. Lately, you've seemed a bit odd, like you're hiding something, looking so preoccupied." Jiang Ming laughed and said, "Is there something you can't tell me? Or is it that you're just not having any luck as a simpa?" Li Shulai replied, "It's not like that. I've just realized that love is precious, but time is even more valuable. Instead of always thinking about side income, focus on solid work, and improving yourself. Wealth can't accompany you for a lifetime, but skills can. Didn't your dad teach you this? Jiang Ming, annoyed, retorted. Stop letting my dad feed you this toxic positivity. A moment later, Jiang Ming asked again, are you really not coming to watch the World Cup? I've already bought peanuts and beer. But once again, Li Shulai told him that he wasn't going. Seeing Li Shulai so resolute, Jiang Ming said, you're just being stubborn. What man wouldn't be interested in the World Cup? It's the World Cup. However, as a close friend, Jiang Ming couldn't shake the feeling that something must have happened in Li Shulai's family. He's probably too embarrassed to ask me for money, Jiang Ming thought, and might be sneaking out at night to do part-time work. I'll be the understanding friend by his side and not expose him. He then asked Li Shulai, if something's wrong, you can speak up. If you need any help, I'll definitely be there for you. Li Shulai reassured him, you don't have to worry. Everything is fine. After hearing this, Jiang Ming headed towards his home to watch the match. Li Shulai smiled, thinking, if in my past life, Jiang Ming hadn't disappeared due to his family's bankruptcy. When I went bankrupt, he might have been the only one willing to help me. As Jiang Ming stood outside the door, he said, no matter what, I'll always be here for you, brother. Li Shulai decided that in this life, he wouldn't let good people go unrewarded. Later at the computer lab, Li Shulai was using the college computers to complete his mission. He was creating software that balanced innovation and readability with a clear structure and no redundancies. It was definitely an astonishing program designed for this era. He thought to himself, hard work pays off. It wasn't in vain that I rushed to the computer lab right after class. Li Shulai finally completed a satisfactory first-generation e-commerce program. However, he didn't expect that operating computers from this era would feel so nostalgic. He grabbed the CD containing the program, thinking, when Yang Fei Long sees this CD, he might just kneel down and call me dad. A moment later, in the hallway, Li Shulai saw Zhang Shuili with Mr. Lin, who had kiss marks all over his face. Zhang Shuili was asking him to do something for her. Upon seeing this, Li Shulai thought, with that scheming look, she must be up to no good. Zhang Shuili is probably doing something with Mr. Lin to get good grades. He continued thinking, another victim. She's probably using some leverage she created to achieve her unspeakable goals. Lost in memories, Li Shulai recalled an incident from his previous life. He had accidentally overheard a conversation between two girls. One of them asked her friend, do you think what happened to Professor Guo is true? He ended up so tragically. If it's false, what does Zhang Shuili gain from it? She has everything. Why would she ruin her own reputation? Her friend replied, what reputation? After this, she still maintains her pure and innocent image. Money isn't everything. There are plenty of wealthy and powerful people at school. Someone like Professor Guo, who sticks to his principles and refuses to compromise, ended up jumping off a building. Those who couldn't resist her allure are repeatedly threatened and coerced into doing shady things for her. You know Wang Quan dropped out because she offended Zhang Shuili and couldn't stay at school anymore. Her friend asked, but why do those teachers just listen to her? The girl replied, what else can they do? Teacher-student relationships are sensitive, and many of them have families. If they want to keep their jobs, they have to endure it. Plus, she always keeps evidence of her flirtations. The girl with pink hair got angry and wondered, with so many people, why hasn't anyone exposed her true nature? With her methods, you wouldn't even know how she destroyed you. She just finished off Professor Guo, didn't she? Suddenly, both of them noticed Li Shulai, who had been listening to their conversation from behind. Upon seeing Li Shulai, both girls immediately stopped talking and started to leave, but Li Shulai, angered, stopped them and demanded, tell me everything you know. The orange-haired girl, clearly frightened, told him, I'll tell you, but I just heard it from someone else. It might not be true. In the present, Li Shulai wondered if that male teacher was also being blackmailed by Zhang Shuili. No one would have expected that someone as well off as her would resort to seduction and unspoken rules to play the campus version of a honey trap. Li Shulai smiled to himself, thinking, let her be smug for now. Those who achieve great things must prioritize and endure hardships. But the only goal I have now is to take down Yang Fei Long. I can't waste extra energy on her, or I'll get stuck like glue, wasting precious time that could be spent seizing opportunities. He then thought to himself about Zhang Shuili. Just wait. You used money to drive Professor Guo to his death, but one day you'll fall into an abyss because of that same money. I will be the one to create that abyss for you. As Zhang Shuili left, Li Shulai came out of the computer lab. Lost in thought about Zhang Shuili, he wasn't paying attention to his surroundings. Suddenly, he bumped into a beautiful girl who was carrying a stack of books. The girl fell to the ground, and all her books scattered. Li Shulai quickly apologized and offered her a hand to help pick them up. However, the beautiful girl politely refused, saying, you don't have to, I can do it myself. As he bent down to help anyway, their hands accidentally touched. She blushed and quickly pulled her hand away, looking a bit shy. Li Shulai apologized again, explaining that he had been lost in deep thoughts and hadn't been paying attention to where he was going. The girl reassured him, "It's okay. I was in a bit of a hurry as well." As Li Shulai got a closer look, he suddenly recognized her. Isn't this Liao Kexin? In his previous life, she had become a best-selling author and was also his idol. She had burst onto the literary scene as a dark horse, with her debut novel selling over 1 million copies. She was renowned for her writing about urban youth, and her works explored life beyond romance. Touching on deep themes, her writing was exceptional, and with just a few strokes she could bring characters to life, making them relatable and resonant. When Li Shulai realized that his idol was now his schoolmate, he felt both proud and honored. Without thinking, he excitedly called out, "Liao Kexin?" Startled, Liao Kexin asked, "Do you know me?" Realizing that he had let his excitement slip, Li Shulai quickly made an excuse. "I saw some of your articles in the school journal," he said, starting to praise her work. "You write beautifully, with words that sparkle like gems." But in his mind he was thinking, who could resist being excited to meet their idol, especially a younger version of them? He continued, "I happened to attend a school event once, and saw you receiving an award on stage. That's how I remember you." Hopefully this explanation works, Li Shulai thought. Liao Kexin blushed, accepting his explanation without any suspicion. But as he looked at her, Li Shulai remembered how, in the past, at press conferences and in photos, she appeared dignified and elegant. Now, seeing her younger self, she looked so shy and cute. Meeting my idol in her youth is such a treat, he thought, feeling both happy and emotional. Being a fan is never a waste of time. Gathering his composure, he asked, "Where are you taking all these books? I can help you carry them." Liao Kexin, still a bit nervous, smiled and replied, "You don't have to worry. I can carry them myself." Seeing Liao Kexin's expression, Li Shulai quickly clarified, "I don't mean anything else. I just want to make up for knocking over your books and wasting your time. Besides, I'm kind of your #1 fan, and I can't help wanting to chat more when I meet my idol. Don't think I'm weird." However, Li Shulai couldn't help but remember that in her past life, as her #1 fan, he never had the chance to get to know her before she tragically committed suicide due to depression. His dysfunctional family was the main cause of her death. He vividly recalled a news article he had read on the internet. Liao Kexin commits suicide at home, found with cloth wrapped around her neck. The article questioned, is it a distortion of human nature or a consequence of depression? When reporters asked her parents about the tragedy, they coldly replied, "Depression? What kind of illness is that? It's just being overly sensitive, overthinking things. We raised her to this age, so what's wrong with asking her for money? Oh, and the copyrights and royalties from her books. We won't miss out on a single cent. If she wanted to end her life, how is that our fault? If she dies without giving us money, that's being unfilial. It's really frustrating. As her younger brother, I'm still waiting for her support. She's so selfish. Girls are born to contribute to their families." Back in the present, Liao Kexin agreed to let Li Shulai help her carry the books. With a big smile on his face, Li Shulai cheerfully said, "Classmate Liao, please lead the way." However, he knew deep down that Liao Kexin was a sensitive girl who easily felt guilty. In this life, he vowed to himself, I won't let her family manipulate her again. Besides, he knew that she was going to become a top-tier author in the future, incredibly influential. Getting to know a future big shot early is all benefit and no harm. Successful people not only seize every opportunity, but also build networks and resources. Later, as they walked across campus, Li Shulai casually said, "You know, you remind me of a cousin I have back in my hometown. Both of you love to write and are very talented. If I remember correctly, she won first place in a writing contest there, but she wasn't as lucky as you. She had a younger brother and her family favored males, so she had to quit her studies. Now she works in a factory and her dreams were shattered. I think telling her this much should be fine," Li Shulai thought, watching for her reaction. Upon hearing this, Liao Kexin's expression turned somber. With a sad look on her face, she quietly admitted, "I also have a younger brother, and my parents favor him more than me." Seeing Liao Kexin's eyes well up with tears, Li Shulai immediately apologized, feeling guilty for making her sad. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. My cousin once told me that she regrets not fighting harder for her dreams. That's why I think you must keep writing. One day you'll become famous because of your work." It would be like carrying on her dreams as well, inwardly. Li Shulai reflected on what he knew from his previous life. Liao Kexin had been overworked, practically a slave to her own family, constantly supporting them while they leached off her success. Her big break had come when her writing career was about to take off. He recalled how her manager had approached her at a cafe, excitedly asking, "Liao-sensei, could you take on this project? Our editor trusts you a lot. The schedule is tight, but we need it by the end of January. If you take this opportunity, You'll have so many chances for promotions in the future. Plus, we'll pay you 20% in advance for the project. Her manager at the editorial convinced her that it was a rare opportunity. You can always find another job, but chances like this are scarce. However, when she informed her family that she wanted to quit her regular job to focus on her writing, they were furious. They berated her, saying, "We put in so much effort to send you to college, and what did we get out of it? That busy job barely pays you 3,000 a month, and you only give us 1,000 Z. You'd be better off marrying that old man Zhang. Becoming Mrs. Zhang would make life easier. You'd just have to play cards with him every day. More importantly, you'd be able to send money to the family." Even though Liao Kexin had graduated college, her family treated her as nothing more than a tool. Her brother had squandered their money and was about to get married, and they saw her as their financial safety net. In desperation, her family even tried to marry her off to an old neighbor to get his money, crushed under the weight of their demands. She gave up on quitting her job. Due to this, she had no time to write for quite a while, and she missed out on a huge opportunity. The author who replaced her on that project became a celebrated young writer, a new shining star in the literary world. She often saw posters of this writer on her way home, plastered with headlines like, "A new star emerges and winner of many literary awards." She couldn't help but imagine herself in their place, wondering what could have been. Instead, she spent her days working overtime at a dead-end job with a low salary. Any money she earned vanished as quickly as it came, because she had to send it all to her family. After paying her rent, there was barely anything left for herself. The dream of becoming a great author seemed to slip further and further away. Liao Kexin always sent money home, terrified that if she didn't, her mother would scold her again. If she didn't send enough, there would be no end to the complaints. Under these circumstances, she fell into a deep depression. But luckily, writing became her only escape. Although it was late in her life, she managed to make a name for herself and emerged as a rising writer. However, her success didn't last long. Despite earning good money, her parents always found ways to take it from her. Her mother would threaten her, saying, "If you don't buy a car and a house for your brother, I'll hang myself." Not just that, her mother would also threaten to tell everyone that she wasn't taking care of her parents. Her brother, now addicted to gambling with the safety net of her earnings, became even more reckless. Her mother continued finding new excuses to demand money from her. One time she told Liao, "I don't care what you do, but you need to give us 2 million within 2 days. We know you have the money. You just sold the rights to your new book for adaptation facing all this pressure." Liao Kexin had thought about cutting ties with her family many times, but every time she tried, her mother would show up at her workplace, dressed in rags, and loudly announce, "I'm Liao Sensei's mother. I just want to see my daughter. Did you know she lives in a luxury house while we, her family, live in hunger? Do you think that's fair?" The people around her, fans and colleagues who saw Liao Sensei as kind and strong, just like the characters in her books, began to wonder if she was neglecting her parents. The cyberbullying, defamation, and inability to cut ties with her toxic family made her depression worse. If it weren't for all of this, she might not have died so young. In the present, Li Shulai snapped out of his thoughts and asked Liao Kexin, "Can I have your email?" Surprised, Liao Kexin asked, "Why do you need that?" Li Shulai smiled and replied, "I want to keep in touch with you in the future. If you become successful, don't forget about me. Besides, it'd be cool to say I can talk with a famous writer." Liao Kexin was taken aback, thinking, does he really believe in me? Does he think I have what it takes to become famous? But deep inside, she was happy. This was the kind of support she had always sought. She quickly wrote her email on a piece of paper and handed it to Li Shulai, telling him, "I only check my email once a week at the computer lab." Li Shulai knew that in the present day, the internet was still in its early stages, and people were only beginning to use email. But having Liao Sensei's contact information was more than enough for him. Excited, he grinned and asked, "May I escort you to the door after they reach the gate?" Liao Kexin smiled and said, "You can just call me Liao Kexin or Kexin." She thanked him for everything. Li Shulai, with a sincere look, told her, "Never stop writing. This life is yours, and only yours. Don't let anyone control you and keep moving forward. Your readers will always support you." Hearing his words, Liao Kexin blushed slightly and nodded. "I will," she promised. With that, Li Shulai said goodbye and told her he'd see her later. After she left, he returned to the computer lab, deep in thought. In this era, where mobile phones don't exist and instant messaging apps aren't popular yet, even QQ, the Chinese messenger app, won't be available for another year. Since Du Yutang had only recently started his business, Li Shulai saw this as the perfect opportunity to win him over. However, the problem was that Du Yutang was located in S City, so Li Shulai would have to travel there later to convince him he needed to come up with a solid plan right away on how to gain Du's trust. Before diving into his strategy, he sent an email to Liu Kexin, wondering when she would respond. Meanwhile, at her desk, Liu Kexin was busy working when a new email notification popped up on her computer. She clicked on it and saw a long message from Li Shulai. The email read, "Dear friend, I hope my words bring you the encouragement and motivation. You're seeking to keep chasing your dreams. Let me start by saying that your works are amazing. Every time I read them, I can feel the magic in every word. Please have faith in your skills and talent. Whenever you find it hard to continue, remember that every writer faces failure and difficulties. I believe you have what it takes to become a great writer, and I look forward to seeing you shine like a star in this world. Your dreams will blossom even on the driest soils. Your silent fan, Li Shulai." Upon reading this, Liu Kiqian felt a surge of happiness. She thought to herself, this guy, he's really afraid I might stop writing. However, doubt crept in as she recalled showing one of her novels to her literature tutor. The tutor had harshly critiqued her work, saying, "This novel is poorly written. It lacks the ability to connect emotionally and is riddled with logical flaws." The tutor advised her not to waste time on it and to focus on something more meaningful. Worse still, the tutor had tossed her novel onto the floor, declaring, "Writing such uninspired and worthless articles is meaningless." Don't go down the wrong path, Liu Kiqian wondered. Maybe the tutor didn't appreciate my work, but could readers like Li Shulai see it differently? Feeling motivated by his kind words, she sent a reply, "I will keep working hard and persevere in chasing my dreams. No matter what difficulties I may encounter on this journey, I will always remember your encouragement and support as I move forward." Shortly after, Li Shulai responded quickly, asking her if she was in class. Liu Kiqian was surprised by his fast reply, thinking, is he waiting in the computer lab? The last time I saw him was also in the computer lab building. Curious, she wrote back, "Are you free? Want to grab lunch together at the cafeteria?" Li Shulai agreed, replying, "I'll be waiting for you in front of the computer lab building." Liu Kiqian smiled and replied, "Okay, I'll meet you there." A moment later, downstairs in front of the computer lab building, they met as planned, ready to share a meal and a conversation. Liu Kiqian met with Li Shulai, and Shilai told him, "I've recently written a draft of a novel and had really your feedback on it." Li Shulai, upon reading the draft, was taken aback. "This draft? Isn't this the beginning of my favorite novel, Dust of the Heart?" He thought in disbelief, "I can't believe I'm seeing it so early. In 1998, I remember every line of it. It's filled with memorable quotes that people used in their QQ statuses, and she won countless awards for this novel, even coming close to being nominated for the Nobel Prize." Liu Kexin, seeing his surprise, asked nervously, "Do you also think it's poorly written?" Li Shulai blinked, confused. "Poorly written? What do you mean?" Liu Kexin explained. "My literature tutor said this piece was poorly written and advised me to stop working on it." Her voice was filled with uncertainty as she continued, "I just need to know your opinion on it as a reader. Is it really that shallow? I mean, I really like it. Is it really that bad?" She looked at him with genuine concern in her eyes. Hearing this, Li Shulai recalled reading in an interview. The beginning of Dust of the Heart had been harshly rejected by Liu Kexin's tutor, who said it was worthless. She had almost buried the manuscript. Thankfully, she loved it so much that a few years later she sought out a new publisher, saving this masterpiece from being lost. Li Shulai moved closer to her and said with confidence, "I think this is very good, but some of the writing techniques and ideas might be ahead of their time. Those who can appreciate it will find it excellent, but others might think it's too different or ordinary." Have you ever read Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby? When it was first published, many people didn't think much of it, but after World War I, its forward-thinking ideas made it an instant success. A gem always shines brightly. Hearing Li Shulai's words, a sweet smile appeared on Liu Kexin's face. She asked eagerly, "Could you give me some advice on how to improve it?" Li Shulai's heart raced. I can't dare give her advice. What if I accidentally change her writing style and affect her entire career? That would be an unforgivable mistake. He took a deep breath and replied, "The best advice I can offer is to stay true to your original concept and keep on the path you've chosen. Don't let anyone steer you away from what you believe in." Li Shulai added, "There are 1,000 Hamlets in the eyes of 1,000 people. I don't want to comment on your work before it's finished." Upon hearing this, Liu Kexin thought that perhaps Li Shulai was too embarrassed to say that her writing wasn't good. But Li Shulai continued, "I'm not a professional, so I can't say what's right or wrong. I wouldn't want to say something that could mislead you. Other people's comments should only serve as a reference. The first person you need to satisfy with your writing is yourself. You are the creator of your work, and your judgment and intuition are what matter most." He paused before adding, "As long as you think it's good, then it is good. If you like it, keep writing. Don't let other people's opinions change your attitude toward your work. Readers will be able to feel your love and confidence in your writing through the lines. Perhaps it won't meet the lofty standards of literary critics, but it has touched me deeply, and I believe it will touch many others in the future. After all, I represent one type of reader, don't I? So don't let others' comments change how you see your work. Liao Kexin felt her heart warm at his words. After so many days of confusion, his words have suddenly cleared away the fog. He understands me so well. No one has ever understood me like this before. This was the first time someone had encouraged her in this way. Her parents had never offered this kind of support. They always said, "What's the point of writing all day? Can it be eaten as food or drunk as water? Your third cousin worked as a tutor during college and earned money. What good are your articles? As a girl, you should learn to wash clothes and cook. Why bother studying? Your brother is much more sensible." Even her brother had mocked her, saying, "Sister, you dress too rustically. Other sisters wear short skirts and black stockings. My classmates will laugh at me if you dress like this." Compared to her blood relatives, Li Shulai felt more like family. He told her, "You'll have to get used to this. It'll happen a second time, a third time, 100 times. But when you overcome these obstacles, you'll shine brighter than anyone else." Liao Kexin was taken aback by his words, but soon smiled gently at him. "I really appreciate your kind words," she said softly. "I'll try my best to achieve my dreams." Meanwhile, Xiaoning and her friend saw Li Shulai talking and laughing with Liao Kexin from afar. Xiaoning's friend nudged her and asked, "Isn't that Li Shulai up there?" And the girl next to him, Xiaoning, replied, "Yes, that's him." Xiaoning felt a wave of anger wash over her as she thought, "Come to think of it, he hasn't spoken to me in a long time. Was he serious about what he said last time?" Her friend, noticing her frustration, remarked, "His favorite things don't seem to be worth much. He's already with another girl so soon, and she's clearly inferior to you in every way. Look at her. Obviously a country girl who only knows how to read. Does he really think she's better than you?" Xiaoning, furious, quickly shut down her friend's comments. "I don't talk nonsense. It's his choice who he spends time with. It's none of my business." "Don't go pairing us together," her friend, smiling slyly, asked. "Xiaoning, you're not jealous, are you?" Xiaoning forced a smile and replied, "Jealous of him. You're overthinking this." At that very moment, Li Shulai, who had overheard their conversation, was boiling with anger. "These two are so annoying. Why do they always show up to disturb me whenever I'm at the cafeteria, and to talk so loudly about me and my idol? It's insulting to the friendship I have with Liao Kexin." He clenched his fists, furious with Xiaoning and her friend, but quickly calmed himself down, thinking, "Thankfully my idol didn't realize what they were saying." Turning to Liao Kexin, he said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to say hello to my two classmates." He stormed over to Xiaoning and her friend, calling their names angrily. However, as he approached, Li Shulai was taken aback. "Ma Xiaoning, how did she get so far away? I thought she was just half a meter behind me a moment ago." Confused and surprised, he wondered, "What's going on?" Xiaoning's friend teased her again. "Look, he's coming back. Want to try and win him over?" Xiaoning, irritated, snapped, "Stop talking nonsense." Li Shulai, still fuming, clearly overheard their conversation. "I heard it again, so clearly, from this distance. It doesn't make sense." Li Shulai thought to himself, "Forget it. Those two are useless. No need to pick a fight with them." However, he suddenly felt something strange happening with his body. Closing his eyes and focusing, he realized that the world around him had changed. The sound of the wind, the distant lecture of a teacher explaining derivatives, the function at a certain point represents the rate of change at that point. And even today's lesson on capital markets and investment portfolios, asset pricing models and risk management principles, came to him so clearly. He could also hear the sounds from the cafeteria, where a student was praising the lunch lady, saying, "Your cooking is delicious." "I've been starving for 5 days," another student complained. "Is this cursed? Why are the scrambled eggs with tomatoes so sweet?" "Jang Anan, do you want to die? How dare you put the chicken leg that fell on the table into my bowl? Are you trying to rebel?" The chatter and noise from the cafeteria filled his mind, despite the great distance between them. Surprised, Li Shulai wondered, is this a new ability brought by reincarnation? A wave of happiness swept over him. "Isn't this the legendary celestial ear? Let's call it that for now. I wonder how it activates. It seems like a passive skill. So what about active skills? Either way, this is incredibly beneficial." Noticing Li Shulai's strange behavior, Liao Kexin asked, "What's wrong with you?" Li Shulai quickly calmed himself and replied, "I was just thinking, since we're classmates, if we don't meet here, we'll meet somewhere else. There's no need to greet each other every time. It feels a bit too formal." But inside he was ecstatic. This must be some kind of ability. A golden finger. They call it that on the internet. Golden finger. He then told Liao Kexin, "It's past noon now. If we wait any longer, there'll be nothing left to eat in the cafeteria. Let's go ahead." Liao Kexin agreed, and both of them headed toward the cafeteria together. A few days later, Li Shulai visited X City, where Yang Feilong was hosting his showcase event. Standing on stage, Yang Feilong addressed the audience, saying, "Looking back, we've witnessed the rapid development of the internet and the emergence of the digital age. In this digital world, opportunities coexist with challenges, but I believe that as long as we dare to innovate and embrace change with courage, we can seize these opportunities and realize our dreams. Yang Feilong confidently addressed the crowd. I firmly believe that the commerce industry will undergo a major revolution in the digital age. With new technologies like the internet, AI, and big data, our lives and ways of working are being transformed. These innovations are disrupting traditional business models, offering unprecedented opportunities and capabilities to entrepreneurs and companies alike. Li Shulai, watching from the crowd, thought, indeed, Daddy Feilong. Just those soul-stirring words have already captivated the audience. His ability to hype things up is truly top-notch. Yang Feilong continued, in this digital world, we will break the boundaries of space, time, and language, creating an invisible link for global commerce. To put it simply, this means bringing electronic transactions to a global scale, ensuring that everyone benefits from convenient, efficient services that meet the Generalized System of Preferences, GSP standards. The crowd murmured in agreement. Yang Feilong's vision of a digital world and commercial revolution is truly outstanding. Some praised. As Yang Feilong basked in the approval of the crowd, Li Shulai saw the perfect moment and stood up, speaking loudly for everyone to hear. I think your dream is wonderful and will surely come true in the future, but there will also come a day when you'll be crushed. The crowd immediately erupted in anger. Who is this kid who doesn't understand anything but dares to speak so boldly? He's just a student, someone shouted. What's he saying? Coming here to cause trouble, another remarked. He's just showing off. Yang Feilong, startled by the interruption, thought, who is this argumentative kid ruining my event? He almost swayed the crowd just now. The event manager hurriedly called for security, barking at them. How could you let anyone in here so casually? But Li Shulai wasn't finished. He locked eyes with Yang Feilong and continued. I know what you're really thinking. I even know the deepest thoughts hidden in your heart. If you truly want to break through your difficulties, come find me. Yang Feilong stood frozen in surprise. What does he mean? Hidden thoughts in my heart. With a calm smile, Li Shulai turned and headed toward the exit, leaving the crowd in shock. The manager rushed over to Yang Feilong and said, people like him are just here to show off, trying to step on others to gain fame. You don't need to pay attention to what he says. Your grand plan can't possibly be crushed. Yang Feilong nodded and agreed. He really is speaking nonsense, but then smiled and added, yet, I don't know why, but I admire him. Don't you find that young man very interesting? Seeing him reminds me of my younger self. Even if he's just showing off or knows a little, daring to refute me in front of so many people makes me curious. The manager was surprised and asked, General Manager Yang, what is this? A moment later, outside Yang Feilong's office building, Li Shulai was standing there when Yang Feilong approached him. You said I will be crushed one day. I think your words are not baseless, and I'd like to hear your advice. Yang Feilong thought to himself, this young man is very purposeful and courageous. Even if he's seeking attention, we were all young once. Li Shulai glanced back at Yang Feilong and said, I knew you'd come out to find me, so you're still teachable. Yang Feilong, slightly startled, wondered, why am I so intrigued by this pretentious act? Li Shulai continued, I know you're working hard to build Feilong Technology into a B2 billion TOB enterprise. That's not a problem at this stage. After all, China has the advantage of a population dividend right now. He paused before offering advice, but think about it. Ordinary people aren't that wealthy yet. If they had access to cheaper consumption channels, what do you think they'd choose? Hearing this, Yang Feilong was confused and thought, could this guy just be a bookish idiot? I've already researched this extensively. Li Shulai smiled and explained, TOB is fine, but in the end, you must also focus on B2C, TOC, to succeed. Focusing on consumers' needs and experiences will allow you to directly engage with them, get feedback quickly, improve your products, and meet diverse consumer needs. E-commerce channels will help expand your market share. Mr. Yang, you've probably already considered this, right? You just haven't dared to make it public yet, but I know you. You're a determined person. If you continue down this path, you'll change the world. Li Shulai's flattery hit its mark at just the right time, helping to solidify the negotiation. Yang Feilong's eyes filled with tears as he thought, it's true. No one understands me better than this young man. I've been anxious and conflicted about this for so long. I've hinted at it to my partners, but everyone thinks I'm daydreaming. I didn't expect this young man to see my vision so clearly. Li Shulai, happy with how things were progressing, thought, step 1, completed. Build a closer relationship so that he, feeling misunderstood by others, can see me as a teammate. Li Shulai then took a CD from his pocket and handed it to Yang Feilong. This is a program I wrote. I'm giving it to you as a gift. Whether you use it or not is up to you, but the opportunity is ahead of you. It's up to you whether you seize it or not. As for what I said earlier, anyone with a bit of charm could say things to flatter you. But this CD, that's the real thing I wanted to give you today. Step 2, completed. I've given him the real deal. A strong dose to make him fall into my trap. Yang Fei Long, still confused, asked Li Shulai, "Why are you just giving this to me like this? Aren't you afraid I'll steal your technology?" He added, "At the very least, you should sign a contract with me first to protect yourself from trouble in the future." Upon hearing this, Li Shulai smirked and replied, "If you're going to be that kind of businessman, you're doomed to fail. Besides, this is just an appetizer. If you want to focus on the sesame seeds and throw away the watermelons, I won't stop you." He turned and started walking away, adding, "That's it for today." "Wait," Yang Fei Long called after him. Li Shulai stopped and looked back. "What else do you want to say?" Curious and confused, Yang Fei Long asked, "Why did you choose me?" Li Shulai looked at him calmly and said, "Because what you're doing benefits the country and the people. If you do it well, China will soar. So it can only be you." With that, he turned and resumed walking. But then, he suddenly stopped again. Yang Fei Long's heart raced as he thought, "He must have more important advice for me. I must be crazy, but I'm eager to hear it." However, Yang Fei Long was mistaken. Li Shulai simply turned around to say, "By the way, my name is Li Shulai. Don't forget it." Yang Fei Long, who had been expecting something profound, felt a wave of disappointment. I really thought he had more to say. A little while later, after Li Shulai had left, Yang Fei Long returned to his office. Curious, he inserted the CD that Li Shulai had given him into his computer. As the program loaded, Yang Fei Long's eyes widened in shock. "Isn't this the code I'd been planning to develop?" he thought. He even annotated every single line. Excited, Yang Fei Long smiled to himself and said aloud, "It turns out he's a hidden master among the people. No wonder he's so confident. I have to recruit him to my side. With his talent and this framework, the Flying Dragon Empire will surely grow bigger and stronger." Later that evening, in the school cafeteria, Yang Fei Long came to meet Li Shulai. As people noticed Yang Fei Long, whispers spread through the crowd. "That person looks familiar. Wasn't he on TV?" Some murmured. Li Shulai was impressed by how quickly Yang Fei Long had found him. "He's quite capable," Li Shulai thought. But then again, it's not that hard. When the program runs to the end, the name of the school cafeteria appears in glittering gold. Hard to miss, right? Yang Fei Long had waited for 3 days at the cafeteria, determined to meet Li Shulai. "This kid is so pretentious," Yang Fei Long thought, "but I have to hold my ground too." Approaching Li Shulai, Yang Fei Long asked, "How did you know I would find you?" Li Shulai replied calmly, "You're clear-headed now. You wouldn't miss this opportunity." Yang Fei Long felt a bit frustrated, thinking, "That makes it sound like I've been out of my mind all along." Politely, he invited Li Shulai to join his business empire. "Do you know how much Fei Long technology will flourish in the future? I hope to create a business empire with you by my side." However, Li Shulai shook his head and refused. "Forget about joining and spare me the sales pitch. It might work to lure in eager youngsters, but it doesn't work on me. Do you think you can attract me with such empty words?" Yang Fei Long was shocked by the blunt rejection. Frustrated and angry, he thought, "Damn it, I checked before coming here. Isn't he just a slightly talented college student from an ordinary family?" Noticing Yang Fei Long's reaction, Li Shulai smiled and said, "Since you've come to find me, I won't let you leave empty-handed." He unzipped his bag, pulled out a CD and a piece of paper and handed them to Yang Fei Long. Upon receiving the items, Yang Fei Long smiled, thinking, the last CD contained sample programs. This time it must be the complete one, right? But when he unfolded the piece of paper and read it, his eyes widened in shock. This is Fei Long Technology's biggest future business opportunity. The key to the company's global expansion? Yang Fei Long couldn't help but smile to himself. If Fei Long Technology is a massive ship about to set sail on a long journey, these pieces of paper are the rudder that will steer us to the fertile continent. The value of this information is several times greater than the previous program. Li Shulai looked at Yang Fei Long and said, "You're a smart person, so don't ask me how I know all this or where I got it from. And don't ask why a poor college student like me knows so much. If you're willing to believe, then go ahead and act on it. If not, that's fine too." He added, "If Fei Long Technology develops in the future, and you find that what I've done today is of value, you'll know what to do." Yang Fei Long looked at Li Shulai with admiration, thinking, this man is not only intelligent, but also dazzling, like a shining star. Li Shulai continued, "In short, stay firm in your belief in Fei Long Technology, and I wish you great success. After all, what you're about to accomplish will benefit both the country and the people." He then turned to leave, saying, "I've said all that needs to be said. Please do as you see fit." Yang Fei Long, feeling an immense sense of clarity and lightness in his heart, smiled. This feeling is like a spring breeze. In the blink of an eye, it was December 31st, 1998. Yang Fei Long stood in front of the media, announcing the official listing of Fei Long Technology. Zhang Ming approached Li Shulai, excitedly asking, Brother Shu, did you see the news about Fei Long Technology? It said that it just got listed today, and they've already secured investments worth hundreds of millions, shocking the financial world. Isn't that incredible? With a broad smile, Zhang Ming added. They say the internet is the future trend. Fei Long's father is truly far-sighted. However, Li Shulai felt a little nervous inside, thinking, the progress is much faster than in my previous life. I'm not sure what kind of changes this will bring. Zhang Ming, still animated, remarked, Fei Long Technology is based in Hangzhou. If we had graduated a year earlier and joined Yang Feilong's business, we'd probably be very successful right now. Li Shulai smiled and replied, I guess so, but deep down, he was genuinely pleased. Although it's launched 9 months earlier than it did in my previous life, the momentum after listing is much stronger. Still, this is good. Very good, he nodded to himself and thought, Yang Feilong did a great job. By April 1999, Li Shulai was preparing to show his graduation project to Professor Guo. As he was discussing it with the professor, Zhang Shuili suddenly stormed into the office, slamming her bag hard on the desk. Angrily, she said, Professor Guo, if you want to make things difficult for me, just say it outright. Is it really necessary to keep blocking my graduation project like this? In her mind, she was thinking, I paid 2,000 yuan to have someone write this project for me, and they guaranteed it would pass. This old man must be out to get me. Zhang Shuili continued, I'm not doing scientific research. It just needs to be good enough for me to get my degree. Professor Guo, unfazed, calmly replied, your graduation thesis may look professional, but it's filled with basic errors and nonsense. Passing this would be unfair to other students. Fuming, Zhang Shuili demanded, so you're really not going to pass it? Professor Guo firmly responded, not with the quality of this project, it won't pass. At least, not under my supervision. Zhang Shuili clenched her teeth in anger, grabbed her bag from the desk and said, just wait. I'll revise the design. She stormed out of the office. Li Shulai, who had witnessed the whole scene from the back of the room, approached Professor Guo with a concerned expression. Teacher Guo, you might want to be cautious. I've heard people who cross her tend to have unfortunate endings. He thought to himself, that's all I'll say. I hope Professor Guo stays vigilant. However, in the next second, Professor Guo picked up Li Shulai's graduation project and said, you have a good first page, but there are a few issues here. Overall, it's not that great. Li Shulai smiled awkwardly, thinking, oh no, Professor Guo has a sharp eye. If I stay, he'll keep lecturing me until midnight. He quickly said, I'll revise it. He grabbed his project and bolted, telling Professor Guo I'm going back to the dormitory to work on it. Once outside, Li Shulai thought, April is the most beautiful month of the year. In the blink of an eye, graduation season will be upon us. I hope it's a peaceful and smooth one. But then he suddenly saw Yang Fei Long standing in front of him, smiling. I heard from your roommate that you came to the Science and Education Department, so I came here specifically to wait for you, Yang Fei Long said. I want to invite you again to join Fei Long Technology. You've been a great contributor to its success. Li Shulai politely declined, but Yang Fei Long wasn't deterred. Before, Fei Long Technology was just a vision, a blank check. I understand why you didn't join. But now Fei Long's value is soaring, and it's clear that we will become China's new commercial giant. If you join now, you're fully qualified to become a major shareholder. Huge wealth is within your reach. Would you really reject such an opportunity? Despite Yang Fei Long's persistence, Li Shulai remained unmoved and refused again. Surprised, Yang Fei Long thought, I never imagined Fei Long would fail to recruit someone like him. Still determined, he pressed on, tell me what you want, and I'll do my best to satisfy it. Li Sui, what could possibly be more important to you than Fei Long's original shares? I really want to know. Li Sui smiled, and turning to face Yang Fei Long said, if you really want to thank me, that's fine. I'm about to graduate, and I want to open a retro-style coffee shop. Why don't you give me the old house at No. 99 Min Kang Road? Yang Fei Long was taken aback, thinking an old house of no value, or just the right to use it. Are you kidding me? He had expected Li Sui to make a much bigger demand, something far more extravagant. Li Sui, with a serious expression, told Yang Fei Long, that's it. That's what I want. Yang Fei Long, seeing the seriousness in Li Sui's face, realized that he wasn't joking. He's not talking nonsense, he thought. It's for real. Surprised by Li Sui's calm demeanor, Yang Fei Long reflected, it's so rare to see young people today who aren't swayed by fame or fortune and who don't grovel to the powerful. When I wasn't wealthy, he gave me such unique advice that shortened Fei Long Technology's path to success, and he didn't ask for a penny in return. Now that Fei Long has achieved greatness, he still has the same attitude. He isn't tempted by money. Yang Fei Long smiled and said, don't worry. Forget about just the right to use it. I'll buy the house for you. Seeing how respectful Yang Fei Long was toward Li Shulai, his secretary couldn't help but wonder. What kind of secrets does this mysterious college student hold? She asked. Mr. Yang, are you heading back? Yang Fei Long instructed her. Go by the house at number 99 Min Kang Road and prepare a card with 3 million yuan for me. He thought, Li Shulai doesn't want money because of his kindness. But I owe him, and this is my duty to repay him. When Fei Long technology grows in the future, I must reserve a director position for him. We're doing will benefit the country and the people. Could it be that I've really met a hermit with noble sentiments who seeks no rewards? Are there really such people in the world? Li Shulai's actions had a profound effect on Yang Fei Long, making him reconsider his future decisions. Sometime later, Li Shulai received the real estate certificate and the card with 3 million yuan. Smiling, he thought, since you insist on giving it to me, I'll accept it. In the classroom, Professor Guo addressed all the students. The graduation defense will be held in early June. Many of your graduation theses still need significant improvement, so I advise you to revise them and communicate with your instructors. There are only 3 months left until graduation, and time is tight. I hope you all put a perfect end to your campus life. The students, however, were visibly frustrated. The difficulty of the graduation project was daunting. Some remarked, we haven't even found internships or jobs yet, and all our time is spent writing papers. After Professor Guo left, Zhang Shuilai's friend asked, how did your conversation with Teacher Guo go yesterday? Is he still being as strict as ever? Zhang Shuilai, clearly irritated, replied, it's just a crappy paper, but Guo is making it look so serious. Does anyone really think undergraduate papers need to be high quality? It is just a formality. Why make such a big deal out of it? Upon hearing Zhang Shuilai, Xiaoning interjected, Teacher Guo is taking the time and effort to guide us for our own benefit. Only by completing your thesis properly will you gain the experience needed to solve more complicated problems when you enter the workforce. Zhang Shuili, annoyed, shot back, Okay, you're an excellent student and the teacher's pet. You're right. Just worry about yourself and stop pretending to care. Seeing Zhang Shuilai's attitude, Xiaoning thought, money is powerful when it reaches a certain level, but Zhang Shuilai, your family isn't that rich yet. Aloud, she said, never mind. It has nothing to do with me. Meanwhile, Xiaoning's friend called her, let's go to the cafeteria. They left together. Afterward, a red-haired boy approached Zhang Shuili and said, Mr. Guo is really stubborn. What if he makes you delay your graduation and doesn't give you a diploma? You know, a lot of companies ask for graduation certificates these days. Your family might be wealthy, and you don't need to worry about finding a job, but wouldn't it be a shame to study for 4 years and not get a diploma? Another boy with yellow hair chimed in. Even though you're about to graduate, teachers generally don't want to make things difficult for students. It's better to leave a good impression in case you meet them again in the future. Zhang Shuili smirked and said to the two boys, I've never failed a course. Why wouldn't I pass? It's just my graduation thesis. If Mr. Guo really doesn't appreciate my effort, I've already figured out what to do. Inwardly, she thought, if you don't appreciate my kindness, don't blame me for being ruthless. The boys nodded in agreement. Old man Guo is nothing in front of power and money. Zhang Shuilai's family has connections. Meanwhile, Li Shulai, who had been listening in on their conversation from the classroom, couldn't hold back any longer. He stepped forward and said to Zhang Shuilai, it's not up to you to decide whether an undergraduate thesis is important or not, or whether it needs to be done seriously. Just because you're morally bankrupt doesn't mean others should disregard their integrity. So what if your family is rich? Being born into wealth is just an advantage of luck. But that doesn't give you the right to look down on others. With an angry expression, he added, things change over time. If your Zhang family falls from grace with your attitude and behavior, people would treat you like a dog. Zhang Shuilai's face flushed with fury. Who are you to lecture me? You poor student with no standing. You have no quality. Li Shulai smiled coldly and replied, are you talking to me about quality? Zhang Shuilai, aren't you the one here with the least amount of it? Deep down, you know it well. The yellow-haired boy turned to the red-haired boy, surprised. This guy usually keeps quiet. Why does he suddenly have the guts to stand up to Shuilai? The red-haired boy shrugged. He probably wants to play the hero. Maybe he's upset because Ma Xiaoning is frustrated by all this nonsense. I've heard his family situation isn't great. He probably relies on studying hard to change his fate. His pride must have been hurt, he added with a smirk. When he enters the real world, he'll find out that studying isn't everything. It's better to be like Shuilai, who doesn't have to worry about anything. Zhang Shuilai, still furious, glared at Li Shulai. Yes, my family is rich, and that's incredible. Unlike you, whose entire life's effort can't compare to what I have by birth. My privilege is my capital. You're just a country bumpkin with parents working on a farm. Stay away from me, and don't let your chicken shit smell bother me." She laughed cruelly. Just then, Zhang Ming stepped in and put a hand on Li Shulai's shoulder. "It's not worth it, arguing with someone like her. Let's go." Li Shulai paused for a moment, realizing the truth in his words. There's no point in arguing with people like Zhang Shuilai. Besides, even though she caused a lot of trouble in her previous life, she hasn't done anything terrible enough in this one to warrant that kind of punishment. He sighed inwardly. "I'll let it go this time. Better to give an idiot a chance." Li Shulai knew deep down that people like Zhang Shuilili would never change. People like her always take shortcuts to achieve their goals. No matter how many times they fail, they'll repeat the same mistakes. He thought to himself, "I'm just waiting for her to mess up again, so I can crush her without hesitation." Li Shulai stepped closer to Zhang Shuilai and said, "Your father is rich, sure, but he's just a 5-millionaire. Just a small-time wealthy boss in Hangzhou." The yellow-haired boy was shocked and blurted out, 5 million. "Isn't that impressive? Why is he so nonchalant about it?" The red-haired boy replied, "He's like a frog in a well. How can he understand what 5 million means? That's enough to buy 100 houses for my family." Li Shulai, ignoring them, continued speaking to Zhang Shuili. "There are plenty of people in this world far richer and more powerful than your father. You might use money to oppress others, but when the tables turn and someone uses money to oppress you, don't cry and scream." He then leaned in and whispered, "I'm waiting for that day, Zhang Shuilai." Zhang Shuilai's face turned pale, a mix of surprise and anger washing over her. "Why do I suddenly feel so nauseous?" she thought. Meanwhile, Li Shulai turned to Zhang Ming and casually asked, "What do you want for lunch?" Zhang Ming grinned. "Lanzhou ramen sounds good." Li Shulai nodded. "All right, my treat." Zhang Ming, still buzzing with excitement, said, "Brother Shu, you were so cool just now, I'm so punked. What you said was amazing. And forget manners. I'm definitely getting 2 extra slices of beef in my ramen." "Furious," Zhang Shuili shouted. "What the hell are you pretending to be?" She charged at Li Shulai, aiming to slap him. But Li Shulai dodged effortlessly, grabbing her wrist in the process. "Girls shouldn't shout about fighting and killing," Li Shulai calmly told her. "Be careful, or you'll mess up your hormones." Enraged, Zhang Shuili tried to kick him, but somehow she ended up bouncing backward toward the red and yellow-haired boys. The onlookers were stunned, and whispers quickly spread throughout the crowd. "What just happened?" one student asked, confused. "What just happened?" one student asked, confused. "I don't know. It looked like Shuili wanted to slap Li Shulai, but he moved so fast." "How did Zhang Shuili fall like that?" another student added. The red-haired boy rushed over to help Zhang Shuili up. "Are you okay?" he asked. The yellow-haired boy noticed she seemed dazed. Zhang Shuili, on the verge of tears, was still wondering what had just happened. Later, back in the boys' dormitory, Zhang Ming couldn't stop smiling. "Brother Shu, you were so cool just now. You left without showing off, but didn't you see Zhang Shuili's face? She was pale. She doesn't even know her own limitations. How could she look down on others like that in front of you?" "But then, curious," Zhang Ming asked, "did you secretly learn Qigong or something? How did Zhang Shuili get bounced back so far so fast?" Li Shulai smiled and replied, "If I told you I don't know either, would you believe me?" It was strange. Zhang Ming looked disappointed. "Do you expect me to believe that?" Li Shulai laughed. "Honestly, I have no idea how it happened. Maybe she just tripped because she wasn't paying attention." Zhang Ming, still skeptical, said, "That's too perfunctory. There's no way she just tripped." Li Shulai, however, had no answers. He didn't fully understand what was happening either. First, his coffee shop had been surrounded by a strange golden light. And then, when he was taking a shower, the same golden light appeared. Confused, he had wondered, "What is this golden light? What kind of ability did I awaken after being reborn?" And now the same thing had happened with Zhang Shuili. Before he could react, his body moved on its own, and her movements slowed down before his eyes. He could even see the trajectory of her actions. When Zhang Shuili tried to kick him, it felt as though a barrier had suddenly appeared around his body, pushing her away. "This can't be a coincidence," Li Shulai thought. "Something's happening to me that can't be explained by science." Determined to get to the bottom of it, he decided to visit the university library the next day. The following day at Hongsheng University Library, Li Shulai grabbed a stack of history and mythology books, searching for any clues that might explain what was happening to him. While reading, he stumbled across a section in one of the books detailing ancient legends about a phenomenon called resurrection of spirit energy. According to the text, when spiritual energy between heaven and earth reflows and strengthens, mortals with spiritual roots can naturally absorb this energy. Through meditation, they can connect with the forces of nature and embark on the path of cultivation, merging with heaven and earth. Different factions practice different methods of cultivation, such as swordsmanship, physical training, and chi cultivation. However, the difficulty of cultivating immortals requires hard work, perseverance, and constant breakthroughs in day-to-day practice. Although the text called it a legend, It also stated that many such myths had been passed down and exaggerated over time. Li Shulai knew that such stories were often dismissed as old folklore, but he couldn't ignore the strange things happening to him. These legends may not be entirely baseless. After all, science hasn't disproved them either, he thought. Perhaps I am one of these so-called individuals with spiritual roots. Maybe there really are hermits and hidden masters practicing silently in corners of the world. Returning the books to the shelf, Li Shulai left the library deep in thought. I don't know if the revival of spiritual energy started after my rebirth, but regardless, this is my opportunity. I have to seize it. That evening, he decided to try practicing. The next day, at 6 in the morning, Li Shulai headed to the park. He had read on the internet that early morning, when the sun rises, is the best time to practice. Practitioners would use this time to purify their bodies, harmonize their breath, and cultivate their inner strength. He arrived at a park near the university and found a quiet spot under a tree. Sitting cross-legged and calming his mind, he focused inward. Let's see if I can gather qi in my danshin. Li Shulai was shocked when he realized he could actually see the energy. He was leading and controlling it. Without hesitation, he continued practicing, circulating the spiritual energy through his body for 9 cycles. He became so engrossed in the process that he didn't even notice the temperature rising to 29 degrees. His body started feeling hot, and he wondered, is this normal? Opening his eyes, he thought, I vaguely touched the threshold of cultivating immortality. If I persevere, small efforts will accumulate, and even a little water can form a river. But despite his excitement, he still wasn't sure. Is this really how one cultivates immortality? After practicing for so long, he noticed that his body felt lighter, and the fatigue and sleepiness from getting up early were mostly gone. He made up his mind to return every day to practice. However, he suddenly noticed several elderly people gathered in front of him. They were all surprised to see a young man in the park so early for morning exercise. That's great, of them said. Young people should exercise more and keep fit to stay healthy. One elderly lady even tried to introduce her granddaughter to Li Shulai, while another man attempted to teach him the correct posture for Tai Chi. Nervous, Li Shulai politely declined, saying, Grandpa, Grandma, I have to go back to school for classes. I'm leaving now. The elderly group insisted that he should come every day to practice, but Li Shulai quickly ran off, escaping as fast as he could. Once he was free, he breathed a sigh of relief, but seeing so many elderly people gave him an idea, a new business opportunity. In another 2 years, he thought excitedly, square dancing will explode in popularity among the middle-aged and elderly. Right now, it's spontaneous, with no organization or discipline. China's society is aging rapidly, and if I create a structured, safe space for square dancing, not only would it contribute to society by providing a place for exercise and relaxation, but it would also be a fantastic business opportunity. Thrilled by the idea, he thought, I'll make a plan when I get back. As he walked away, an old man practicing martial arts in the park noticed him and thought, this young man has an aura similar to ours. Later at the airport, an announcement echoed through the terminal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard our flight to Yanzhou. It is now boarding time. Please have your boarding pass and valid ID ready and line up to board the plane. Everyone noticed Li Shulai talking on a cell phone, and they were surprised. A mobile phone, they thought. That's so expensive. In the 90s, owning a mobile phone was considered a luxury. The lady on the other end of the call told Li Shulai, we've selected several houses near Sandley Lake for you. The woman on the phone asked Li Shulai, when would it be convenient for you to come and have a look? Li Shulai, preparing to board his flight, replied, I'm about to board the plane now. Contact me in 3 hours when I've landed. After grabbing his bag, Li Shulai boarded his flight to Yanzhou. A few hours later, he landed and made his way to Dezuo Real Estate. At the real estate office, the receptionist greeted him and said, the market price of the house you're interested in is 1 million yuan. Would you prefer to pay in full or through installments? If you're interested in installments, I can introduce you to our bank loan services. The receptionist smiled, thinking, he looks to be in his early 20s. Could he be a rich second-generation kid? He sounded so generous on the phone. Could he be the god of wealth? Li Shulai paused and told her, give me a minute. I want to take another look before deciding. He knew this property would not only serve as a base for him in Yanzhou, but its market value would also skyrocket in the coming years. The agents have a good eye for selecting properties. No wonder this industry has thrived for so long. But it's a shame about real estate. In about 10 years, the market will collapse. Without further hesitation, Li Shulai took out his golden card and handed it to the receptionist. I'll pay in full, he said. Receptionist's eyes widened in shock, not just her. Everyone present in the office was taken aback. Did he just pull out 1 million like it's nothing? Someone whispered. He looked so young and his clothes are modest, but he didn't even blink when paying in full. Maybe he's from a super rich family. Another person nodded. Must be a second-generation rich kid for sure. A girl dressed in black overheard the conversation and remarked, Sunley Lake is far from the city center. There's no room for the property value to appreciate. I must have been fooled. Another person whispered, are you stupid? The value of houses in that area won't appreciate. That's the old town. After signing the contract for the house, Li Shulai smiled to himself. They don't know anything. Forget Sunli Lake. If you buy property in Yanjiao, you'll make a fortune too. Being reborn has its perks. Satisfied, Li Shulai thought. Next up, there are other important things to take care of. He made his way to a newspaper vendor and bought a copy of the Financial Evening News. As he flipped through the pages, he noticed an article about Feilong Technology's rapid growth. The company had not only secured domestic success, but also attracted overseas investments. Father Long really knows how to seize business opportunities and climb to the top, Li Shulai thought, but then he smiled knowingly. I can't let him dominate the market alone. As the chill of the evening air set in, Li Shulai thought, it's time to meet Brother Shi and Brother Hong. Later that day, at the Dagwon Kun building within Yanjing Technology, Lu Doxi, the CEO of Yanjing Electronic Technology, addressed the receptionist. How is Hukshuo progressing with the material preparation? Please ask him to provide a status update. Also, make a reservation at a nearby restaurant for later. I have a lunch meeting with Mr. Lin. His secretary then informed him, a young man has arrived and mentioned that he wishes to discuss something with you. Lu Doxi responded, send him away. I'm not taking any meetings at the moment. He thought to himself, it's probably another aspiring young entrepreneur wanting to pitch his ideas. I've seen more of them lately. However, after a moment of reflection, he reconsidered and instructed. On second thought, let him in. Also ask Xiao Hu to come by later. He mused, I was once young and inexperienced too. Perhaps I should give this person an opportunity. The secretary nodded in acknowledgement. I'll inform the young man right away, he replied. Meanwhile, Li Shulai stood patiently at the reception desk, contemplating. The well-established competitor next door is already thriving, while Mr. Lu is still operating as a small technology firm. It's no easy feat to fall behind at the start and still manage to stay competitive. The secretary approached Li Shulai with a cup of tea and politely said, please wait for a moment. Mr. Lu will see you shortly, once he has concluded his current tasks. As Li Shulai waited, he noticed Lu Doxi on a phone call. You might not be fully aware of the potential market for chain stores in China, Lu Doxi was saying. With the country's rapid economic growth and the rise of the internet, demand for its products and services is increasing exponentially. This is the ideal time to expand into the market. However, the individual on the other end seemed distracted and uninterested in the conversation. Mr. Lu concluded, let's schedule a meal for another day, and I'll explain everything to you in detail. He ended the call and turned his attention to Li Shulai, noting, so this is the young man. He seems sincere enough. Approaching him, Mr. Lu asked, are you here to apply for a position? Yanjing Technology is not currently in the process of expanding its workforce. Li Shulai stood and calmly responded, no, I'm not here for a job application. Slightly intrigued, Mr. Lu asked, then may I ask the purpose of your visit? Li Shulai, fully aware that Mr. Lu's recent plans to open a chain store were doomed from the start, reflected on the situation. It wasn't just the market limitations that posed a challenge. In a few years, the spread of an epidemic would further complicate matters. His entire strategy would likely collapse. However, such external and uncontrollable factors could not be openly discussed. He realized that the approach he took with Mr. Lu had to be different from how he handled things with Yang Fei Long. Lu seemed uncertain and confused. Unlike Lao Yang, who had been easily motivated with just a few words of encouragement to earn Mr. Lu's trust, Li Shulai knew he would have to be direct and address the core issues as Mr. Lu looked at him, puzzled. He thought to himself, has this guy not figured out what to say yet? Meanwhile, Li Shulai, inwardly amused, thought, it feels odd not to play the role of a master this time. Li Shulai addressed Mr. Lu confidently. I've been studying the situation of various domestic internet companies and have developed some insights of my own. I overheard you mention the chain store during your call, and I'd suggest abandoning the plan sooner rather than later. Upon hearing this, Mr. Lu smiled, thinking, if you want to join Yanjing, just say so directly. Making bold statements to prove your abilities? I've seen this game before, he responded. In recent years, with the country focusing on infrastructure development, land prices will continue to rise steadily. Physical stores will find it increasingly difficult to turn a profit due to rising labor and rent costs. Instead of competing for a shrinking market, it's better to shift your focus towards the internet. However, upon observing Mr. Lu's expression, Li Shulai realized that, in his heart, Mr. Lu likely dismissed his advice. Yet outwardly, Mr. Lu maintained a respectful demeanor, as if appreciating Li Shulai's insights. Mr. Lu shook his head and said, you're only seeing the surface, not the core. While physical store costs have increased, the profits from chain stores are more than enough to cover those expenses. Mr. Lu continued, you have no idea how popular the Yanjing counters are. As long as the brand Yandong is associated with it, there will be long queues. Young people like you haven't experienced the ups and downs of the industry. It's not enough to just theorize, you need practical experience. Practice is the only way to test the truth. Opportunities are fleeting. Successful people achieve their status because they know how to seize the moment. If you're too timid, you'll never accomplish anything that's said. I do admire your courage to come here and say these things. Li Sulai smiled inwardly, thinking, yes, practice is the ultimate test of truth, but I've activated the rebirth cheat. With newfound confidence, Li Sulai responded, I have one more piece of advice for you, Mr. Liu. E-commerce will only truly rise to prominence if it controls its own logistics. One day, you'll understand exactly what I mean. Mr. Liu laughed and said to Li Sulai, you're quite an interesting young man, even bolder than I was back in my day. However, his face turned serious as he added, confidence is good, but no matter how fearless you are, reality will teach you a lesson. Li Sulai remained unfazed and confidently responded, then just wait and see. He handed Mr. Liu his business card and said, if you ever need my help, you know how to contact me. With that, he left the office. Mr. Liu glanced at the business card and noticed the name, Li Sulai. Initially, he didn't pay much attention and tossed the card into the trash. However, moments later, he reconsidered and retrieved the card thinking, it may have sounded a bit outrageous, but I can't seem to shake it off. Today has been strange, he thought, carefully placing the card in a safe spot. When my IP chain empire is built, I'll invite him to see it firsthand, he resolved. Meanwhile, Li Sulai walked out of the building smiling to himself. At this stage, Mr. Liu wouldn't abandon a long-prepared plan just because of a few words. But once he faces setbacks and realizes his mistake, he'll come looking for me. Let him be humbled by his ignorance, Li Sulai mused. As both men pondered their encounter, Li Shulai's thoughts shifted to his next target, Qiantu. After securing both Mr. Liu and young Fei Long, he was ready to move forward with his plans. Sometime later, at Hangcheng University in the boys' dormitory, Zhang Ming greeted Li Sulai enthusiastically. Hey, it's great to see you again. Where did you disappear to over the weekend? Why are you still carrying your luggage? Li Sulai brushed off the question and replied, I went home to visit my parents. Zhang Ming, excited, said, say hello to them for me. Tell them you have a good friend who's ready to join the family. Teasingly, Li Sulai responded, I don't need another brother. What I need is a sister. Zhang Ming, pretending to act like a girl, joked, if needed I could be your sister too. Annoyed, Li Sulai shot back, get out of here. But even as he joked with his friend, his mind drifted back to Mr. Liu, wondering, I left him my contact details. Will he actually reach out? Later, Li Sulai handed another CD to the receptionist at Qiantu. The Anzhou plan had been completed as scheduled, and now the real game was about to begin. Then, turning back to Zhang Ming, Li Sulai asked, I've gone home on the weekends before, and you've never missed me. The sudden attachment this time, Zhang Ming replied, there's been an old man asking around for you. Based on his description, I realized he was talking about you. I just wanted to know what was going on. Curious, he asked, did you run into a scammer or something? You have to be careful. There are a lot of shady old men and women out there these days. Teasingly, Li Sulai remarked, it's just the bad guys getting old. Most older people are still kind and trustworthy. Zhang Ming grinned and replied, well, if anything like that happens, you know your dad will always have your back. However, Li Sulai couldn't shake a feeling of concern. Who could be looking for me at this time? Father Long isn't that old, is he? He shrugged the thought off. If it's something important, they'll find me again. With that, he finished packing his things and prepared to leave. Just then, the old man who had been searching for Li Sulai appeared. He had been asking around the university and nearby marketplace, hoping to track him down. As Li Sulai went out for a walk, the old man finally found him. Rushing over, he grabbed Li Shulai's hand and urged him, come with me. Confused but curious, Li Sulai followed the old man to a nearby park. Once there, the old man instructed him, look carefully. Suddenly, fire-like energy began to gather around the old man's body, and Li Sulai stood in shock. Is this what I read about in the ancient texts? The old man then shouted, focus your energy and center your mind. Although the technique wasn't overwhelmingly powerful, it was strong enough to cause the leaves on the surrounding trees to fall. Li Sulai, trying to remain composed, thought the dignity of the elders should be respected. The old man, somewhat embarrassed, asked, did you understand what I was trying to teach you? Li Sulai, now deeply intrigued, thought, this blazing energy, like a raging fire, shows that this man has been practicing for a long time. Then, it hit him. Is this man an immortal cultivator? He quickly pieced it together. It's not that the spiritual energy in this world is reviving, but that there are already many hidden masters practicing in secret. I didn't have the qualifications or opportunity to join them before. Deciding not to reveal his inexperience, Li Sulai thought, I'll just play along and act knowledgeable. Meanwhile, the old man was having his own internal revelation. I've met countless people, but this young man's essence is the purest I've ever encountered. I've struck gold. If my granddaughter marries him, the Jiang family's future will be secure. Feeling a bit nervous, Li Shulai asked, "What exactly do you want me to do?" His thoughts raced. Is this like the novels? Is something off here? With a serious expression, the old man asked, "Are you currently seeing anyone?" Li Shulai was stunned. That's what he wants to ask me. He thought to himself, this is the first time I've met a real-life immortal cultivator. And instead of talking about the spiritual world or discussing the mysteries of cultivation, he's asking me about my dating life? Realizing the situation, he thought, is this old man setting me up for a blind date? Nervously, Li Shulai replied, "What kind of relationship could a serious person like me have? I have to go to class soon, so I'll be leaving now." But before he could move, the old man stopped him, saying, "My granddaughter is smart, clever, considerate, and beautiful. She attends your school. I'll call her over right now." Li Shulai felt a sense of unease wash over him. Am I in serious trouble here?" The old man, wasting no time, dialed his granddaughter at lightning speed. Li Shulai, noticing the strength of the old man's grip, thought, this man is indeed a cultivator. His strength is incredible. Meanwhile, on the other end of the call, the old man's granddaughter picked up asking, "Grandpa, did you come out of seclusion? Do you miss me?" The old man, now slightly awkward, looked at Li Shulai and said, "Ning, Ning, don't accuse me wrongly. I think about my precious Ning Ning every day. Look, your grandpa came to your school today, specifically to see you. Come find me quickly." Ning Ning, surprised, asked, "Grandpa, why didn't you tell me earlier? I just promised to go shopping with my classmates. Now I'll have to cancel on them." Her grandfather quickly reassured her, "I've brought you lots of delicious food and beautiful clothes. You can share them with your classmates later. Come here now." Reluctantly, Ning Ning agreed and told him she would be there soon. As soon as the call ended, Li Shulai tried to excuse himself, saying, "I won't intrude on the venerable and his granddaughter's family time. I'll head to my class now." However, the old man grabbed him by the shoulder and said, "Just wait 10 minutes. You're single anyway, so why not at least meet my granddaughter before making any decisions?" Li Shulai, feeling trapped, thought, "I don't have time for this." The old man insisted, "My granddaughter is not only beautiful, but she's also very filial to her elders. She's truly one in a million. I guarantee you'll be impressed." Trying to remain polite, Li Shulai responded, "I am currently focused on my cultivation and have no interest in my personal life. No matter how exceptional the venerable's granddaughter may be, I am not interested." Both the old man and Li Shulai were locked in a tug-of-war, trying to convince each other. The old man, observing Li Shulai's calm demeanor, thought, this young man not only has excellent qualifications but also strong self-control. At this age, it's rare to see someone remain so composed in the face of potential romance. Despite Li Shulai's attempts to leave, the old man held on to him tightly, grabbing his leg and pleading, "I have plenty of resources. Please understand an old man's wish to have grandchildren and live a peaceful family life." However, Li Shulai, exasperated, gently pushed the old man away and firmly stated, "I won't agree." The old man, with a wounded expression, said, "You're bullying an old man." Li Shulai, speechless, wondered what on earth he was getting involved in. Just then, Shoning was approaching. The moment her figure came into view, the old man immediately released Li Shulai. Li Shulai, standing up straight and presenting himself like a perfect gentleman, Li Shulai was utterly shocked when he realized that the old man's granddaughter was none other than Ma Xiaoning. Xiaoning, confused, looked between her grandfather and Li Shulai. "Grandpa, what's going on? Why is Li Shulai with you?" She glared at Li Shulai, shouting, "Why are you so shameless? Since you couldn't win me over, now you're targeting my family." Li Shulai quickly tried to explain, chasing Xiaoning, "There seems to be a misunderstanding." The old man also attempted to calm his granddaughter down, but Xiaoning interrupted, saying, "This person's behavior is practically harassment. I've already rejected him, but he keeps pestering me. Why go to such lengths? Plotting against my family will only make me hate you even more." She turned to her grandfather, asking, "Grandpa, did he bully you just now? A college student bullying an elderly person? How disgraceful." Li Shulai, visibly frustrated, responded, "Ma Xiaoning, you've been talking to yourself for a while now. Have you had enough? None of what's happened here is my fault." The old man chimed in, agreeing with Li Shulai. "Ning Ning, this young man didn't do anything wrong. I was just tired of standing, so I lay down to rest." Although inside he was secretly pleased that such a promising young man had once had a crush on his granddaughter. But Xiaoning wasn't convinced. She said firmly, "Grandpa, you don't have to be afraid of him. I'm here to protect you." Her grandfather, exasperated, said, "Ning Ning, you owe him an apology. You've misunderstood this good young man." Shocked, Xiaoning exclaimed, "Him? A good young man?" Li Shulai, crossing his arms, replied sarcastically, "Yes, it's me, your model 3 good youth. Is that okay?" Her grandfather continued, I'm serious, Ning Ning. Apologize to Li Shulai, fuming. Xiaoning snapped back. Apologize to him? That's impossible. Her grandfather, now losing his patience, shouted Ning Ning. Tears welled up in Xianing's eyes as she cried out, Grandpa, you came all the way to my school just to be mean to me. I don't want to deal with you anymore. With that, she turned and ran away. Her grandfather tried to stop her, but it was already too late. He sighed, muttering, this child has no sense of propriety. Then, with a small smile, he turned to Li Shulai and said, there must be some misunderstanding here. I'll speak with her when I return home. It seems this matchmaking won't work out. Li Shulai, having witnessed the chaotic scene, asked, so can I leave now? But the old man stopped him, saying, hold on. I can tell you've just begun practicing. There's no need to be so on guard around me, afraid of exposing your foundation. Upon hearing this, Li Shulai was stunned. The old man calmly explained, in the eyes of practitioners, unless one deliberately conceals their cultivation, it is transparent. Observing your true essence, we can easily discern your level of cultivation, he continued. Matchmaking was secondary. My primary reason for approaching you is to establish a relationship. Though you've only recently begun practicing, your true essence is exceptionally pure. This indicates that you have a unique physique and extraordinary talent, traits that make you an excellent candidate for cultivation. Upon hearing this, Li Shulai realized that his rebirth had likely tempered his qualifications. It seems that if they find someone with potential, they'll try to match them with the cultivator, he thought. Noticing Li Shulai's contemplative expression, the old man smiled. You're still hesitant to discuss anything related to cultivation, which shows your cautious nature. That's good. In the world of cultivation, vigilance is a virtue. If you're not careful, you might fall victim to those who kill for treasures. For more information, visit wudo.fema.gov. I also suspect you don't have a master, and that you've learned everything on your own. Toko and I admire your character, and am optimistic about your aptitude and understanding. Given time, you will undoubtedly achieve greatness. I simply wish to meet you while you're still humble, so that when you rise to success, my Jianyan family can benefit from the relationship. With a smile, the old man thought, it seems I've convinced him. Time to make my next move. He then told Li Shulai, there's a practitioners' conference this week, held at Qingyun Temple on Laojun Mountain. As a show of my sincerity, I will introduce you to my senior sister when the time comes. While I, as an expert at the third realm, cannot make further breakthroughs and may not be able to guide you, my senior sister is one of the most powerful individuals in the world. Becoming her disciple would guarantee your rise to the top. Li Shulai's curiosity was piqued. In the real world, the third realm is considered a master. Though the old man's methods seemed a bit unorthodox, Li Shulai appreciated his honesty and open intentions. He's someone I can befriend. Besides, navigating cultivation alone is like a blind man crossing a river. It's wise to seek guidance. In Li Shulai's eyes, Zhang Chaoyang's accomplishments were already impressive, and his senior sister must be a wise, white-haired master from whom he could learn a great deal. Well, Li Shulai said thoughtfully, since you're being so sincere, it will be impolite of me to be polite. If your excellency intends to help me, I will repay your kindness with gratitude someday. Finally, after all his effort, the old man successfully persuaded Li Shulai. As for Xianing, the old man thought to himself, we'll need to handle that situation carefully to avoid any lingering issues. The following day, Xianing stood in front of the library lost in thought. Grandfather can be so unreasonable. I don't know what's gotten into him, calling me 3 times a day, urging me to pursue a relationship with Li Shulai. And now he claims that Li Shulai is talented in cultivation. That's as unlikely as a pig climbing a tree. Forcing a smile, she opened the car door and invited Li Shulai to get in. He thanked her politely before settling into the passenger seat, and Xianing followed shortly after. As they drove towards her grandfather's residence, she glanced at Li Shulai, who was busy jotting down notes in his notebook. Grandfather insisted that everything that happened before was just a misunderstanding, she recalled. He actually wanted to introduce me to Li Shulai as a prospective partner, but I didn't realize it at the time and dismissed the idea completely. And now look at how I've been judging him. Lately, Xiaoning had begun to notice subtle changes in Li Shulai. Could it be that he's truly different now? He seems more composed, and he looks better too. The thought made her cheeks warm, but she quickly pushed the feeling aside. Am I really letting myself be swayed just because grandfather praised him? Meanwhile, Li Shulai appeared completely absorbed in his own thoughts, paying no attention to her. He was preoccupied with more pressing matters. Yang Fei Long, Liu Daxi Du, Yu Teng, Lin Yan Hong. It's been over a week since I sent the CD and I still haven't heard back from Brother Hong, he reflected. Did something go wrong? Maybe the front desk didn't deliver the CD, otherwise I would have received some word by now. I spent extra time perfecting that program. Based on Yang Feilong's reaction, I expected him to be astonished and contact me immediately. Still, these are minor concerns, he thought. Even if Brother Hong doesn't respond, I have a contingency plan in place. The path to power is never straightforward, and perhaps that's for the best. Suddenly he looked up, hatching Xiaoning off guard. Oh no, has he noticed me staring at him? She panicked, but Li Shulai wasn't focused on her. Instead, he found her startled reaction somewhat puzzling. What's going on with her? Why does she seem so anxious? Xiaoning, noticing his glance, wondered, what's with that look? Does he think I'm acting strange? As soon as he returned to his writing, she pondered whether he was still upset about their earlier interactions. Trying to break the silence, she spoke up. Li Shulai, how long are you going to follow me around like this? If you're trying to get my attention by playing hard to get, it's not going to work. Do you realize how much inconvenience this behavior causes others? Li Shulai responded calmly. I'm not trying to get your attention. I've been occupied with more serious matters. Her words lingered in the air as Xiaoning considered his response. Have I been reading too much into everything? A short while later, they arrived at their destination. Xiaoning surveyed the surroundings. We're nearly at the top of the mountain. Yet it's still so isolated. Li Shulai turned to the old man and asked, aren't we going to Qingyun Temple? Why are we heading into the mountains? The old man chuckled and replied, those who practice cultivation have their own territories. Only those initiated in cultivation can see them. Without crossing the barrier, the scenery beyond remains invisible. Li Shulai was taken aback, unsure of what the old man meant. But in the next moment, his confusion turned to astonishment as he watched Xiaoning walk through an invisible barrier. When he followed her, passing through the barrier himself, he was greeted by a breathtaking sight, a majestic castle standing before him. Li Shulai was amazed. So this is a territory. It's nothing like the traditional Taoist temples. It feels as though it's floating among the clouds. His mind wandered briefly. I wonder if once I've reached a certain level of cultivation, I'll have a territory of my own. Suddenly, he noticed the faint traces of true energy within Xiaoning and thought her true energy is so weak. It's almost non-existent. How can someone with such minimal essence cultivate? Xiaoning caught him staring and blushed, irritated by what she assumed to be his wandering eyes. Rogue, she snapped. Startled, Li Shulai was confused. What do you mean? He asked. I was just observing your true essence. You've let your imagination run wild for no reason, he explained defensively. Xiaoning's face flushed a deeper shade of red. Don't say such nonsense, she replied, embarrassed. Li Shulai, undeterred, pressed on. Your true energy is very weak. I was just curious as to why Ma Xiaoning were college students. You shouldn't focus solely on your personal matters. Think more about how to create value and contribute to the country. Xiaoning shot back. I have no idea what you're talking about. And even if you are observing my true essence, don't look at it. Yes, my energy is weak. I'm not suited for cultivation like you. Watching. Exchange. The old man smiled inwardly. My granddaughter won't be alone forever. Young love isn't so different from my own time. Li Shulai, still deep in thought, remarked, your energy doesn't seem weak. It looks like it's blocked by something, but I'm not entirely sure. Just treat it as idle speculation. Xiaoning, taken aback, replied, no one has ever told me that before, not even my grandmother. Li Shulai responded with a touch of uncertainty. I could be wrong. My level of cultivation isn't that high yet, so I might have made a mistake. The old man, observing them, mused. Despite their differences, perhaps they'll grow closer. After all, even enemies can become family. Meanwhile, Li Shulai noticed a group of cultivators gathering in front of them. They had come for the same event. This is truly a grand gathering of the cultivation world, he thought, impressed. I never expected such a small city like Hangzhou to attract so many talented cultivators. I wonder if other cities host events like this. Everyone here seems ordinary, but they're clearly exceptional. His gaze landed on one person in particular, a postman who dashed across the field at an incredible speed, leaving Li Shulai speechless. That young man's true energy is remarkable, he thought. With such ability, he could probably deliver hundreds of parcels in a day. He could easily earn more than 1 million in 3 years at that rate. The old man approached Li Shulai and said, come along, my friend. Let's meet the senior sister first, and then I'll introduce you to some people and show you around the temple. With that, the old man led Li Shulai to the Lanhuan pavilion. Entering the building, he called out loudly, Senior sister, I brought Xiaoning and her boyfriend. Xiaoning, both angry and embarrassed, exclaimed, Grandpa, stop talking nonsense. Li Shulai, also feeling slightly embarrassed, thought to himself, how can this old man still be so mischievous? Maybe Zhang Kouayan has his reasons. Masters often have secret techniques that they don't pass on to outsiders. Nepotism might be at play here, but for now it's best not to call attention to it. Xiaoning, still flustered, noticed that Li Shulai hadn't refuted her grandfather's words. Why didn't he deny it? Is he actually happy with this title in his heart? Meanwhile, Li Shulai mused. In the past, Ma Xiaoning would have ridiculed me, calling me a toad trying to eat swan meat. But now, seeing her angry yet unable to speak out, it's quite amusing. Just then, a small blue bottle appeared before Li Shulai, and from it emerged a stunning woman. Lin Shuhuan, the master of Qingyan Temple, both Xiaoning and her grandfather, immediately greeted her with respect. Li Shulai, shocked at the sight, thought, isn't she Zhang Kaoyang's senior sister? And isn't she Ma Xiaoning's grandmother? God, Grandma, young Grandma. Lin Shuhuan smiled warmly and said, this is your home. There's no need to be so formal every time. The old man, feeling slightly embarrassed, agreed. Senior sister is right. Lin Shuhuan placed her hand gently on the old man's head and said with a teasing smile, our little Chao Yang seems to have grown younger recently. It appears your cultivation has made great progress. The old man, flustered, responded, it's all thanks to the elixir you gave me a few days ago, senior sister. Li Shulai, observing the interaction, was stunned. A girl who looks around my age is calling this old man little Chao Yang. But then he recalled something from his readings. Online articles always mention that the higher one's cultivation level, the older they become. I just lost my composure. I must have looked so unrefined, Lin Shuhuan continued. If you encounter any difficulties, be sure to let your senior sister know. Old man Chao Yang playfully leaned his head on her shoulder, saying, everything's fine. If I run into any trouble, you'll be the first person I turn to. Li Shulai, witnessing the scene, thought, it's incredible how someone so dignified can become so clingy in an instant. Even though I understand that everyone here practices cultivation, seeing this in person still feels strange. Lin Shuhuan finally turned her attention to Li Shulai, asking, so is this young man truly Xiaoning's boyfriend? She observed him closely, thinking, the true energy within him is quite pure. Perhaps he could help Xiaoning with her cultivation problem. Xiaoning, clearly uncomfortable, quickly explained, Grandma, he's not my boyfriend. Grandpa just said that. We're only classmates. Frustrated, Lin Shuhuan turned to the old man, asking if he is not Xiaoning's boyfriend. Why did you bring him here to meet me? Old man Chouyang, suddenly nervous, tried to explain to Lin Shuhuan, I just thought he had good aptitude and strong character. He seemed like a suitable candidate, so I wanted him to become your disciple. Upon hearing this, Lin Shuhuan glanced at Li Shulai and quickly realized that his true energy was remarkably pure, upright, and awe-inspiring. However, she turned to old man Cao Hang and said, no rush, let's head to the banquet hall first and meet the other practitioners. Old man Cao Hang understood exactly what his senior sister meant. He approached Li Shulai with a big smile, congratulating him. Confused, Li Shulai wondered why the old man looked so pleased. Old man Cao Han leaned in and said, if my senior sister wasn't satisfied with you, she would have rejected you on the spot. Since she hasn't, well, you can consider that a good sign, but be ready. Senior sister may have a small test for you. He then laughed heartily and shouted, come along, my future nephew. Moments later, they arrived at the banquet hall, filled with people laughing and conversing. However, when Lin Shuhuan entered the room, everyone fell silent, bowing their heads respectfully. Some called her Grandma, others, Senior Sister, Lord of Langhuan Pavilion, or simply Master. Lin Shuhuan smiled and said, please everyone take a seat. After a brief pause, she continued, another year has passed, and I trust everyone's cultivation has improved. I'm sure you've all noticed that over the past few months, the spiritual energy in the earth has become more concentrated than before. This is a significant change, one that only happens once in a century. We must guard against arrogance and impatience, remain diligent, and seize this rare opportunity to advance our cultivation. Li Suilai, listening intently, thought to himself, I wonder if the increase in spiritual energy has anything to do with my rebirth. The timing seems too coincidental. Lin Shuhuan then addressed the crowd, saying, as is tradition, we will hold a small event this year. The winner will receive a magic weapon from Langhuan Pavilion. Excitement rippled through the crowd. Someone exclaimed, the magic weapon sent by Langhuan Pavilion last year was a remarkable flying device. With it, you could travel thousands of miles a day, faster and more stable than any airplane. I wonder who will win this year. Another person chimed in, it's definitely coming home with me. Yet another enthusiastically claimed, I'm taking the top spot this time. Old man Chao smiled, looking around the room, and then confidently announced, the one who's going to win this year is standing right next to me. The room buzzed with excitement, with people murmuring, this young man was recommended by the master of Langhuan Pavilion. He must be a genius. One person added, his true essence is as pure as fire. I've never seen anything like it. However, someone else reminded the group, the event changes every year. It's not always a martial arts competition. It might have nothing to do with genuine. Li Shulai, feeling the pressure, clenched his teeth nervously and whispered to old man Chao, I'm just a beginner. I haven't even mastered any real skills yet. Old man Chow patted his shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry too much. These conferences are mostly for fun and entertainment, but inwardly he knew the truth. This may very well be the test my senior sister has in store for him. Li Shulai sighed and said, I'll trust you on this. Meanwhile, Xiaoning, overhearing their conversation, grew irritated. You call my grandfather uncle. So what should I call you? She fumed silently. Old man Chow, noticing her expression, chuckled and said to Li Shulai, relax. It's simple and you'll understand in a moment. A short while later, Old man Chow led both Li Shulai and Xiaoning to the other side of Langwon Pavilion, where the competition would be held. As they arrived, Li Shulai was stunned by the sight before him. This is a practitioner conference, he thought incredulously. He saw cultivators flying on swords, others practicing advanced magical techniques, and the sheer scale of it all left him speechless. Shouldn't there be some kind of structured fighting competition? Suddenly, an announcement echoed through the hall. This year the event is cooking. Li Shulai blinked in disbelief. He then watched as many of the attendees prepared to showcase their culinary skills in hopes of impressing Lin Shulai. Huan, the lord of Langwon Pavilion, upon observing the scene, Li Shulai thought to himself, are all the activities in this cultivation world so simple and straightforward? No one seems surprised except for me, which makes me look rather inexperienced. Xiaoning, noticing his expression, asked, are you disappointed? The path of cultivation is long and often monotonous, and we can't gather just to discuss ancient texts every time. My grandmother believes in balancing work and rest. That's why she organizes this annual event, an opportunity to relax and connect with others. Her lifelong hobby is food, so whoever can impress her with their cooking will win. She then asked, have you decided what dish you're going to make? Li Shulai shook his head. I haven't decided yet. Xiaoning gave him a few suggestions, saying, it's rather hot and humid today, and I don't have much of an appetite. And maybe something spicy would whet her appetite. Dishes like shredded chicken, spicy chicken, cold rabbit, or mapo tofu seem like good options. She looked at him, hoping he would catch the hint. Oh, by the way, my grandmother's wife is from Sichuan, so maybe she'll miss the flavors of her hometown. But well, I didn't say anything. Seeing Xiaoning worry and drop so many hints, Li Shulai thought, Ma Xiaoning, you actually seem concerned about me. How strangely cute. Fortunately, Li Shulai had long honed his cooking skills. In his previous life, his girlfriend often demanded he make various dishes for her. Honey, I want golden garlic pork ribs. Honey, how about French garlic lamb chops? Oh, I'm craving tonkotsu ramen, and I want you to make it from scratch, starting with the dough. She would always sweet-talk him, making him whip up all kinds of meals to satisfy her picky taste. Because of her, Li Shulai had worked hard to master his culinary skills, becoming proficient in the 8 major Chinese cuisines, including Sichuan, Cantonese, and Fujian styles, and even dabbling in French and Italian cooking. In the end, a man who tries to please others may not always succeed in relationships, but at least he walks away with useful skills. As Li Shulai stood in front of the cooking table, deep in thought, Lin Shuhuan noticed him and smiled. But he's just standing there, not doing anything. Old man Chow, watching from the side, couldn't help but mutter, this kid, what are you standing around for? Don't tell me you can't cook. Was I just boasting for nothing? He began to feel a bit embarrassed, but Lin Shuhuan calmly said, don't worry, there's no need to rush. She glanced at old man Chow and added, even at your age, you're still so impatient. Cooking is like cultivation. You can't hurry it. Just like when preparing fresh seafood, you need patience. Li Shulai slowly opened his eyes and thought, what should I make? As he surveyed the ingredients available, a great idea struck him. There are so many specialties here. I'll create something truly impressive. Sometime later, after everyone had completed their preparations, the majority had crafted their dishes for presentation. Li Shulai, too, prepared his offering, exuding confidence and satisfaction with his creation. However, it wasn't just one dish. He had prepared in abundance, filling an entire table. The sheer quantity left everyone in the room surprised. Despite their astonishment, their expressions soon shifted to disapproval. Quantity alone does not determine quality, someone remarked coldly. Does he truly expect the pavilion master to taste every single dish? Others murmured in agreement. Our leader is known for being extremely particular. Who invited this young man? Another voice inquired. His cultivation may not be advanced, but his mind seems to overflow with ideas. At that moment, an elderly man dressed in blue robes approached Li Shulai. With a stern expression, he said, young man, you are unfamiliar here. Being unconventional will not earn you any favor. It may even breed contempt. Unperturbed, Li Shulai calmly responded, the final judgment lies with the pavilion master. If my food does not meet the standard, I will return to continue my practice. His unwavering confidence irritated many onlookers. One of them snapped, do you even know if what you've cooked is any good? The finest ingredients require only the simplest preparation. The food grown in Qingfeng Temple's spiritual fields is nurtured by spiritual energy. You're wasting precious resources. Why hasn't anyone removed him yet? Several others echoed the sentiment. Exactly. High-quality ingredients need only basic cooking. Meanwhile, from a higher vantage point, Lin Shuwan and Old Man Chao observed the scene, watching his senior sister's subtle reactions. Old Man Chao thought, although senior sister maintains an air of maturity and composure in public, her true thoughts are difficult to discern. But her gesture just now, tapping the armrest, reveals that she too is that the young man is remarkably composed and perceptive. If I had been in his position, I might have reacted with far less restraint. Let's hope our Xiaoning recognizes this opportunity. Shortly thereafter, the tasting session commenced. A group of young women approached Li Shulei's table, carefully selecting portions of his food and delivering them to the judges. As the judges sampled the dishes, they were visibly taken aback. The flavors were so exquisite that tears began to form in their eyes, and they could not resist taking more. Observing their reactions, Li Shulai felt a sense of satisfaction. It seems the judges are thoroughly enjoying it, he thought, now eagerly anticipating the pavilion master's final judgment. Pavilion Master Lin Shuhuan approached the table where all the dishes were displayed. The first dish served to her was Song Sao's fish soup. As she tasted it, she found it better than expected, though it still did not meet her high standards and was quickly eliminated. The fifth dish was chopped pepperfish head. After taking a bite, she liked this dish more than the previous one. Li Shulai, observing Lin Shuhan's expression, thought to himself, it looks promising from her reaction. When she reached the 10th dish, Mao Chu Wang, she had already tried numerous plates. Everyone grew excited as they anticipated her reaction to Li Shulai's dish. The 12th dish was mapo tofu. Upon seeing it, Lin Shuhuan was genuinely surprised. Mapo tofu, she thought, this is my favorite. As she took a bite, she was shocked. This mapo tofu, she marveled, the perfect level of spiciness, the smooth and tender texture. It's so good I could eat it with 10 bowls of rice. Her expression became visibly warm and pleased after just one bite. She turned to Li Shulai and asked, "What did you add to this dish?" Li Shulai with confidence replied, "I added sincerity." Then, with a hint of nostalgia, he revealed, "In my previous life I always made at least 5 dishes and 1 soup for dinner. It's truly made with sincerity, the sincerity of someone devoted to their craft." Despite this, others in the room were displeased. He should be eliminated, one person argued. Quantity doesn't matter, and the pavilion master only took a single bite. Another laughed, saying, "Looks like we don't even need to try the rest." However, pavilion master Lin Shuhuan cut them off, instructing her maid, "Give Li Shulai the magic weapon and the cultivation book from the top shelf of my library." The entire room was stunned. "What? The results have been announced before we've even finished tasting the dishes." Someone exclaimed. "You don't understand," he said with admiration. "In all my 60 years of studying cuisine, I have never seen such a fine delicacy. I've dedicated my life to cooking, and yet this young man has surpassed me effortlessly." He turned to the crowd, adding, "Even if his cultivation hasn't progressed much, his cooking skills far exceed those of anyone I've seen. Even those who have just started their culinary journey, he completed dozens of dishes in the time it takes others to make just one. Is he even human?" With that, the elderly chef approached Li Shulai, kneeling before him and pleading, "Please, will you accept me as your apprentice?" Surprised, Li Shulai hesitated, unsure of what to do. As the evening came to a close and the cultural festival drew to an end, people began returning to their duties. Nata Pavilion Master Lin Shuhuan, however, invited Li Shulai and the others to her home. Once there, she turned to Li Shulai and said, "I want you to cook something for us." She then declared, "From today onward, you are my apprentice." Li Shulai was shocked upon hearing this. Shouldn't there be a formal apprenticeship ceremony? What he wondered, is it really that simple? Can you become a master just by recognizing someone from the stove? Noticing his confusion, Lin Shuhuan asked, "What's the matter? Do you think becoming a disciple is too simple?" Embarrassed, Li Shulai replied, "Well, just a little." With a soft laugh, Lin Shuhuan said, "It's the 21st century. Don't be so rigid in your thinking." With that, she left. Later, at the dining table, Lin Shuhuan instructed, "When you return, practice on your own according to the scriptures. If you have any questions, ask your uncle Cho Yang or write them down. You'll need to come to Qingyun Temple once a week for training. I'll let you know the specifics later." She also told Xiaoning you should come along as well. "Master will help you resolve your cultivation issues." Xiaoning thanked her grandmother with a big smile on her face, saying, after that, both Li Shulai and Xiaoning walked back together to their university dorms. Xiaoning glanced back at Li Shulai and said, "I noticed you've been staring at me the entire way. What's on your mind? Surprised, Li Shulai thought. Does she have eyes on the back of her head? Confidently, he replied, nothing, adding with a teasing grin. From now on, I'll be more tolerant toward younger people. He playfully teased her. Come on, don't dawdle. Do you hear me, my little niece? Xiaoning processed what he had said and immediately got angry, snapping, Li Shulai, are you taking advantage of me? The next morning, Li Shulai went to Professor Guo's office to present his new graduation thesis. Upon reviewing it, Professor Guo remarked, this thesis is excellent. The structure is clear. The arguments are well presented. The data analysis is solid and convincing. Well done, Shulai. I'm very optimistic about your future. Li Shulai, with a smile, replied, Mr. Guo, your praise is a bit too direct. Professor Guo, smiling, continued, let's discuss a few minor points. The paper could benefit from a bit more elaboration on certain key concepts. As they discussed some minor adjustments, suddenly a woman in a suit entered the office. She addressed Professor Guo, please come to the Academic Affairs office. Professor Guo turned to Li Shulai and said, we'll continue this discussion tomorrow. I need to attend to something first. As Li Shulai watched Professor Guo leave, he had a strange feeling, thinking to himself, it's happening. When Professor Guo stepped out of his office, he noticed Zhang Shuili standing nearby. However, he paid her no attention and walked past her, ignoring her completely. Furious, Zhang Shuili muttered under her breath, how dare this old man try to compete with me? If he doesn't let me graduate, I'll make his life miserable too. Meanwhile, Li Shulai also exited the office. Zhang Shuili spotted him and thought, Li Shulai, look at how unlucky your favorite teacher is now. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Now later that day, back at the boys' dormitory, Zhang Ming noticed that Li Shulai seemed to be in a bad mood. Concerned, he asked, Shulai, what's going on? Didn't your thesis pass? You look serious. Li Shulai shook his head and said, don't worry, I'm just thinking about something else. Zhang Ming, being his best friend, patted his shoulder and said, don't stress too much. If there's anything you need help with, let me know. Li Shulai playfully punched Zhang Ming on the head and joked, you should be paying more attention to your own thesis. Zhang Ming sighed, I'm already desperate about that thesis. Forget it, I'd rather take a nap. Li Shulai smirked and warned, be careful or you might not graduate. But deep down, his thoughts turned darker. Mr. Guo's punishment is coming soon. Before the disciplinary notice is issued, I need to put my plan into action. The evidence I've gathered over time will finally come to light. Later that evening in the university office, campus investigators arrived with Zhang Shuili to conduct an investigation into a serious matter involving Professor Guo. Mr. Guo, surprised and confused, wondered what was happening as he saw Zhang Shuili crying in front of the campus investigator. The investigator, maintaining a serious tone, addressed him, Mr. Guo Qiang. A classmate has reported you for abusing your power and attempting to take advantage of her. Please explain what's going on. Mr. Guo slammed his hand on the table and adamantly denied the allegations. Intention of taking advantage of her. I, Guo Qiang, have served this institution for many years, and everyone here knows the kind of person I am. Zhang Shuili, with tears streaming down her face, looked at him and said, Professor Guo, didn't you tell me that my graduation thesis wouldn't pass? Didn't you say that I wouldn't be able to make it through the defense? Professor Guo, exasperated, responded, that's because your graduation thesis was fundamentally flawed from the start. And furthermore, more importantly, you didn't even write it yourself. You had someone else revise it for you. Zhang Shuili broke down further in front of the investigators, sobbing, dear investigators, do you really think I, an innocent girl, would need to use my innocence to slander someone? How important is innocence to a young woman? Would I throw that away just for a graduation thesis? Just for a defense? I've received numerous scholarships over the years. Why would I resort to something like this? The female investigator, moved by her tears, comforted Zhang Shuili and began to sympathize with her, thinking to herself, this student is young and beautiful, and her family is well off. There's no reason for her to use such serious accusations to frame an aging man like Mr. Guo. After all, what would she gain by doing so? Professor Guo, clearly frustrated, addressed the investigators firmly. Please do not make irresponsible remarks based on Zhang Shuili's unfounded claims. However, Zhang Shuili, still crying and positioning herself as the victim, tearfully addressed the investigators. Dear leaders, listen, Teacher Guo is asking me for evidence. If he truly has nothing to hide, shouldn't he be the one to provide proof? Isn't it up to him to show there are no hidden rules? Professor Guo, growing angrier, shouted at her. You slander me and then demand to provide evidence. With an innocent expression, Zhang Shuili responded, how can I, a student who hasn't even entered society yet, compete with someone like Teacher Guo, who has been part of the system for decades? Besides, I always thought of him as an upright and honorable teacher. Professor Guo, now even more exasperated, retorted, Zhang Shuilai, stop lying. I have a family, a wife and children. I cannot afford to have my reputation destroyed by these false accusations. You claim there are hidden rules, so where is your evidence? Zhang Shuilai told investigators. That day he led her into his office, locked the door, and whispered to her while touching her secretly. And then, he pulled off my skirt. How could he leave evidence if he was capable of such a filthy act? How could he allow me to leave evidence? The female investigator interrupted, her voice firm. That's enough, Zhang Shuilai. No more talking. But Zhang Shuilai, still sobbing, continued. He must be a sexual offender. I'm the only one brave enough to stand up. She paused for a moment, then added, I've heard that the passing rate of students under teacher Guo is unusually low. The female investigator comforted Zhang Shuli, saying, Don't worry, the organization will uncover the truth. Just wait for the result. Then, turning to Professor Guo, she added, Until the investigation is complete, you should stop teaching and take some time to reflect on your actions. Troubled and anxious, Professor Guo felt helpless, unsure of how to prove his innocence. Meanwhile, Zhang Shuli smiled to herself, thinking, Smelly old man, did you really think you could fight me? My plan has succeeded. Zhang Ming, who had been secretly watching from behind the door, was disgusted. Damn Zhang Shuli, she really played her part well. He quickly ran to find Lai Shuli and exclaimed, It happened just as you predicted. Zhang Shuli accused teacher Guo of sexual harassment. Should we take action now? Li Shulai smiled knowingly and replied, The night is dark and windy, perfect for action. At midnight, Li Shulai and Zhang Ming, both dressed in black like thieves, snuck around the campus. They plastered photos of Zhang Shuli with other teachers in compromising positions all over the university, where everyone could easily see them. The next morning, the campus was buzzing with shock. Students and faculty were stunned by what they saw. Zhang Shuli, who had always presented herself as innocent and well-respected, was revealed to be someone entirely different. We completely misjudged her, many thought. At the same time, in the girls' dormitory, Zhang Shuli woke up, still feeling drowsy. She noticed her friends staring at her with disappointment, creating an awkward atmosphere. Confused, Zhang Shuli asked, Why are you all looking at me like that? What's going on? One of her friends nervously replied, It seems someone posted your pictures all over campus. Hearing this, Zhang Shuli jumped out of bed. What photos? Where? She demanded. Her friend showed her the photos, images of her in a relationship with a teacher. Zhang Shuli, shocked, quickly snatched the photo from her friend's hand. Enraged, she tore it into pieces, thinking furiously, Who did this? Do they have a death wish? I'll make sure they pay for this. Zhang Shuli stormed across the campus, tearing down posters with fierce determination, shredding them into pieces. The gathered students watched with growing excitement, whispering amongst themselves. So one student remarked, Is she really selling herself for good grades? Another responded skeptically, That's unlikely. Isn't her family extremely wealthy? Zhang Shuli turned to face them, her eyes blazing with anger. What did you say? If you're bold enough, say it louder, she demanded. The girl she addressed, however, remained unfazed, replying calmly, What are you even angry about? He doesn't even respect himself, yet he dares to shout at us. How shameless. Another student chimed in, I've heard rumors that she seduces people. How could someone so despicable be in our school? Absolutely revolting. Surrounded by stares and malicious gossip, Zhang Shuli felt a wave of anxiety and despair wash over her. From a distance, Li Xue observed the scene, his thoughts cold and calculating. This won't faze Zhang Shuli much. She could easily extricate herself if she wished. But this is just the beginning. It's essential to dismantle the innocent image she's cultivated so carefully. He allowed himself a brief smile before murmuring under his breath, Next I'll destroy the background she takes so much pride in. Later, at the Coffee Road Cafe, Li Shulai met with Yang Feilong, handing over several new technological proposals. Upon reviewing them, Yang Feilong's eyes widened in astonishment. This plan is nothing short of brilliant. I wish I could rush back immediately and have my team implement it. These are precisely the issues Feilong technology is struggling with right now. Li Shulai remained composed, asking confidently, Are you satisfied with what you see? Yang Feilong sighed, shaking his head slightly. I used to think you were the one missing out by not joining Feilong, but now I see that the real loss is mine. Li Shulai smiled knowingly and replied, There's no such thing as a free lunch. What I've shown you before were merely appetizers. Today's plan, however, is the main course. Yang Feilong, both surprised and impressed, thought to himself, These young minds are always quick to act when money is involved. After fishing for so long, is it time to pull in the net? Li Shulai then mentioned his request. I would like your assistance in acquiring a company called Zhangquan Company Limited. Yang Filong, perplexed, asked why Zhangquan. With a measured smile, Li Shulai replied, I have a teacher I deeply respect. After a brief pause, he elaborated, I aim to restore his reputation. Not only must we expose Zhang Shuai's deceit, but we also need to dismantle the powerful forces supporting her. Justice must be served. Upon hearing this, Yang Filong stood abruptly, impressed by the underlying motive. So this is about something far more noble than I expected, he thought, slightly humbled. He turned to Li Shulai and said with conviction, Zhangquan, you say, consider it done. It's time for them to shut their doors. After his meeting with Yang Filong, Li Shulai returned to the boys' dormitory and shared his plans with Jiang Ming. What do you think? He asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. Jiang Ming silently nodded his agreement, his expression unreadable. As I thought, Li Shulai mused, Zhang Shuli's matter hasn't yet ignited widespread controversy at the school. The first step was merely a test. He turned to Jiang Ming again. Is teacher Guo still reflecting on his suspension? Yes, Jiang Ming confirmed. It looks like there's no avoiding his dismissal this time. Some students have seen him looking utterly drained and deeply demoralized. Is there something you plan to do about it? Li Shulai stepped toward the door, his voice resolute. I'll check on him myself. Later that evening, Professor Guo stood alone in a park, lost in thought as he wrestled with how to navigate his professional crisis. Li Shulai approached him quietly, offering a reassuring smile. Hold on a little longer. The truth will come to light soon, and your name will be cleared. Taken aback, Professor Guo, feeling defeated and demoralized, looked at Li Shulai and sighed. How can someone as poor and disconnected as I am fight against the rich and powerful? It's not that I haven't tried, but those who once supported me now want nothing to do with me, as if I've become an outcast. He continued, recalling his recent attempts to seek help. I reached out to an old friend, hoping for some assistance, but he told me, Lao Guo, I'm about to be promoted. Getting involved with you now would only jeopardize that. Another friend explained that Zhang Shuli's family is related to Deputy Director Wang from the Ministry of Education. When her father found out about the situation, he became furious and vowed to get to the bottom of it. He threatened the school, saying if they don't deal with me, he'll take action himself. They're turning a minor incident into something much larger. Professor Guo shook his head in disbelief. They advised me to admit to the sexual harassment allegations, kneel before Zhang Li and apologize. Otherwise, the Zhang family will ruin me, leaving me disgraced and unable to teach anywhere. They told me life is long. Kneel down, apologize, and move on. There are plenty of private schools out there where you could start over. Can you believe that? Anger flickered in his eyes as he continued. Who would have thought a student from such a prominent family would stoop to such methods? A rumor takes only one person to spread, but trying to refute it feels hopeless. Li Shulai, calm and thoughtful, responded, if they are using money and influence to pressure you, then we'll fight fire with fire. Use even more resources to make them surrender. For the first time in a while, Professor Guo felt a glimmer of hope. Classmate Li, I never expected you, of all people, to be the one standing by me, believing in me when no one else does. His voice softened, but concern soon clouded his expression again. But the problem remains, how could we possibly have more resources than the Zhang family? In this world, does justice ever prevail for the common man without a price? He looked at Li Shulai with a mixture of gratitude and resignation. Since you're here, I have nothing more to teach you. Just remember this, talent and ability are vital, but you must always be wary of hidden dangers. Your teacher is living proof of that. Li Shulai looked at teacher Guo with unwavering confidence. Teacher, you always told me never to be defeated by difficulties and hardships. Now I'm telling you the same thing. Justice will come, and the guilty will be punished. But please don't even think of proving your innocence by taking your own life. He smiled brightly as he added, in this life, evildoers never go unpunished. Teacher Guo, visibly moved yet slightly awkward, managed a smile. Then I will wait, he said quietly, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in a long while. A short while later, in the corridor of the first teaching building, Li Shulai walked into a classroom and approached Zhang Shuli. With a calm, respectful tone, he asked, Zhang Shuli, I respectfully request that you withdraw your complaint against teacher Guo. Zhang Shuli stood abruptly from her seat, her expression furious. Li Shulai, stay out of this. Don't forget what happened to Guo Guoqiang. You don't want to risk not graduating, do you? Unfazed, Li Shulai met her gaze steadily. This is your last chance. Zhang Shuli sneered. A last chance, huh? Where did you pick up that line? Have you been watching too many cartoons lately? She grabbed Li Shulai by the collar, her voice dripping with contempt. You're from the lower class, Li Julai. Don't think you can save anyone. People like you are destined to be trampled underfoot for the rest of your life. Who cares about ants like you? She smirked as she let go of his collar. That's my advice to you with that. She turned and began walking away before she could leave. Li Julai's voice rang out, calm but firm. Zhang Zhuli, the countdown has begun. Zhang Zhuli paused, confused. What are you talking about? You fool, she snapped, before leaving. Later that evening, back at Zhang Zhuli's villa, she returned home in high spirits. Kicking off her shoes, she called for her father, rushed to her, his face beaming with excitement. Our family is about to get rich. Phylong Technology wants to partner with us. I'm going to the bank soon to apply for a loan so we can get the project moving forward. He looked at her eagerly and asked, do you know about Phylong Technology? It's the company that secured several hundred million yuan in investments right after it went public. Even overseas investors are throwing their money into it. It's now the leading company in the industry. And it was their CEO, Yang, who personally negotiated the acquisition. Zhang Zhuli paused to process what her father had just said. She quickly calculated the potential profit in her head and couldn't help but think of Li Julai's earlier warning. A smile crept onto her face. This is hilarious, she thought. One last chance? This is some kind of joke. Her father, still elated, added, surely, our family's fortune is going to skyrocket. Soon you'll be part of the elite social circles, enjoying wealth and glory beyond your wildest dreams. Zhang Zhuli looked at her father and said earnestly, I don't want to just be a superficial vase. I want to work hard alongside you in the future. Her father, beaming with pride, replied, that's my daughter. The next day, in the study room, Zhang Zhuli folded a piece of paper into a ball and threw it at Li Julai. However, Li Julai quickly caught it and, without hesitation, tossed it back toward her, hitting her squarely in the face. Furious, Zhang Zhuli stood up from her seat and shouted, you're looking for death. Li Julai ignored her outburst, glancing calmly at his watch. He began a countdown. Zhang Zhuli noticed this strange behavior, bewildered. What's he doing? Does he look down on me? She wondered. The countdown reached 0. Zhang Zhuli's phone suddenly rang. She answered, only to hear her father's panicked voice on the other end. Something's happened at home. We might go bankrupt. Don't come home, stay away for now. Shocked and unable to process what was happening, Zhang Zhuli stood frozen. Li Julai, still watching his watch, murmured, right on time. Fied. Zhang Zhuli approached him, her body trembling. What did you do? She asked, her voice shaking. Unfazed, Li Julai looked at her with calm indifference. What could I possibly do to someone as rich and powerful as the Zhang family? Suddenly her phone rang again. This time an angry voice on the other end yelled, you worthless brat. Pay back what your father owes us, or sell your body like the slut you are. One call after another started coming in from unknown numbers, each filled with threats and insults. In shock and confusion, Zhang Zhuli's hands trembled and her phone slipped from her grasp, falling to the ground. She collapsed beside it, tears streaming down her face. This can't be real. I must be dreaming, she cried. Li Julai calmly picked up her phone from the floor and handed it back to her. Money is the most unreliable thing, he said coldly. Only I can save you. Go home and think it over carefully. With that, he turned and left, leaving Zhang Zhuli in a state of complete disbelief and despair. As night fell, Zhang Zhuli cautiously made her way back home, carefully avoiding being seen. During the day, the entrance had been surrounded by angry debt collectors, and the house had been defaced with graffiti. Fear gripped her, and her legs shook with uncertainty. Should we leave tonight? She wondered. However, she was shocked when she saw her house completely vandalized, with spray paint covering the walls and everything in chaos. Panicking, she ran to her room, desperately hoping her jewelry was still safe. But when she opened the door, she froze. The entire room was in disarray, and all her jewelry was gone. Nothing remained. Shocked, she collapsed to the floor, her mind racing. Li Julai warned me about this, she recalled. In this world, those who use money to bully others will eventually meet someone wealthier who will crush them. He said only he could save me. Despite the reality staring her in the face, Zhang Zhuli stubbornly muttered, why is he pretending? Save me? My family has investments from Phylong Technology. This has to be a prank, but deep down, doubt crept in. Forget it, she thought, grabbing her phone. I don't even know where Mom and Dad are hiding, and who knows what the debt collectors have done to them. She dialed her father's number, but there was no answer. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, why won't you pick up? Dark thoughts began to flood her mind. In TV dramas, people in debt get their hands chopped off. No, that can't happen. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the idea. No, definitely not. But what do I do now? All I have left is this month's living expenses. Suddenly, there was a loud, forceful knock at the door. Zhang Zhuli screamed in terror. On the other side, two debt collectors began kicking at her room door, trying to break in. One of them sneered, "It felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. But look at that, we caught a fish, after all." The other man laughed. "I saw her come in with my own eyes. She hasn't left since. Maybe she's still got some cash on her." Zhang Zhuli's heart pounded in her chest as panic overtook her. "What do I do?" she thought, paralyzed with fear. The door rattled violently as the men continued kicking it, and finally, with a deafening crash, the door broke open. Zhang Zhuli, terrified, began screaming loudly, pleading with the men. "I don't have any money. Go ask my parents. It's their debt, not mine." One of the debt collectors grabbed her roughly by the neck and sneered, "Haven't you heard? A daughter pays her father's debts." He threw her onto the bed and struck her before turning to his men. "Search her. Find out if she's hiding any money." Zhang Zhuli sobbed uncontrollably, begging them to stop. "Please, let me go," she cried, her voice trembling with fear. One of the men began searching her body inappropriately, groping her under the guise of looking for money. She cried out, "I don't have anything. Please, stop." But the leader of the group found her purse. Holding it up, he grinned wickedly. "Didn't you say you had no money? Then what's this?" Zhang Zhuli's eyes widened as she lunged forward, grabbing onto his leg. "Please, that's all I have left. Don't take it. It's my last bit of money," she begged. The leader slapped her hard across the face, shoving her to the ground. He opened the purse, finding only a few hundred yuan. Disappointed, he sighed, "This isn't much. But no matter. You don't need money to repay the debt." He leered at her, his eyes filled with lust. "You can just pay with your body. You're beautiful enough for that." Zhang Zui's heart raced as she crawled backward, desperately trying to distance herself from him. No, please don't come any closer." The man advanced on her, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "You're so pretty, no wonder your teacher wanted to harass you. A well-educated college student like you'd sell for a high price." Tears streamed down Zhang Zui's face. "No, you can't do this to me. You can't," she cried, trembling. The leader smirked cruelly. "Weren't you the one being passed around by men already? Why are you pretending to be innocent now?" Zhang Zhui sobbed, desperately pleading with them. "Let me go. I'll find my parents, they'll pay you back. I'm their only daughter. They'll listen to me." The man laughed mockingly. "Give up on that. Your parents ran away long ago. It's clear they don't care about you anymore. You walked right into their mess, and now you're going to pay for it." He pushed her down onto the bed, and Zhang Zuli's mind raced with fear. "Yesterday I was driving a luxury car, living a life of comfort. How did I end up here in this nightmare?" she thought, overwhelmed. "Why is this happening to me?" Just as the debt collector was about to force himself on her, a man in a black suit suddenly appeared and stopped him. "Don't mess around," he commanded, his voice cold and authoritative. Zhang Zhui, feeling a brief wave of relief, thought, "Thank God, someone is here to save me." But her relief was short-lived. The debt collector leader ordered his men, "Take her. Let Mr. Li know we've got some new goods." Zhang Zui's hope shattered as she realized her nightmare was far from over. She had no idea how to escape or what to do next. Despair consumed her. In the previous episode, we saw how Zhang Zhui was captured by debt collectors, who were now demanding that she pay off her parents' debt. If she refused, they threatened to make her work for them. Up next, desperate Zhang Zhui pleaded with them to let her go, insisting it wasn't her debt, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. One of the men grabbed her by the hair and dragged her out. The man in the black suit slapped her across the face, sneering, "Stop howling like a ghost, or I'll kill you if you make another sound." The other man, holding her by the hair, pitied her mockingly. "Aren't all rich girls this cowardly?" "That's right, don't make more trouble for me," the man in the black suit added. "If you had listened earlier, you could have avoided that slap." As they started forcing Zhang Zhui into their car, she spotted Li Shulai watching her from the bushes. Zhang Zhui remembered what Li Shulai had told her before. "The only one who can save you is me." Summoning all her strength, she broke free from the man's grip and ran toward Li Shulai, shouting, "I believe you, please save me." The debt collector, furious, shouted after her, "You stinky bitch. How dare you run?" But Zhang Zhui didn't care. The only thing running through her mind was what Li Shulai had said, "I am the only one who can save you." She collapsed to her knees in front of him, crying, "They're going to sell me out. Please save me, you will, won't you?" Li Shulai looked down at her coldly and replied, "You want me to save you? But first you need to tell me everything you did to teacher Guo." He pulled a recorder from his pocket and clicked it on. Zhang Zhui, trembling, began, "That old man, Guo, has been blocking my graduation defense, refusing to let me pass my thesis. I didn't mean to do anything wrong. Li Shulai's voice turned sharp as he interrupted. Were you framed him? You threw false accusations at him, leading to his suspension just to remove him as an obstacle for your graduation? Zhang Shuili, scared and crying, begged, I really didn't mean it. You saved me first. I'll tell you everything once I'm safe. The debt collectors, closing in, glared at Li Shulai and snarled, mind your own business. But Li Shulai didn't flinch. He kept his gaze fixed on Zhang Shuili and asked coldly, let me ask you one last time. Did Teacher Guo sexually harass you? The man in the black suit, furious, approached Zhang Shui, ready to grab her. In a panic, Zhang Shuili cried out to Li Shulai, Teacher Guo didn't sexually harass me. The man in the black suit, eyeing Li Shulai, warned, stay out of this. But get in the way or you'll regret it. Just walk away. Zhang Shuili, seeing the man closing in to drag her away, thought in desperation, no, I can't let them take me. Even if it's Li Shulai, even if I despise him, as long as he can save me. Trembling, she confessed in front of Li Shulai, I deserve this. I was confused and framed Teacher Guo just to pass my graduation project. I know I was wrong now, please have mercy and make them let me go. Li Shulai, staring coldly at her, asked, so you really understand what you've done wrong? Zhang Shuili nodded frantically, everything that's happening now is my punishment, I deserve it. She begged, please save me, Li Shulai. When the time comes, I'll help clear Professor Guo's name and make sure he returns to teaching. Having recorded her full confession, Li Shulai calmly replied, I'm sorry, but these men are not connected to me. I don't have the authority to ask them to let you go, one thing at a time. After all, it's only natural to pay off debts, isn't it? He turned to the man in the black suit, nodding. You may proceed. Zhang Shuili's face went pale in disbelief. He tricked me, she realized with horror that Li Shulai had set her up. Recording her confession of framing Teacher Guo, the bald man laughed cruelly at her and sneered. You thought someone would come to your rescue. Out of a sense of justice, dream on, I felt sorry for a beautiful girl like you, being sold off to a nightclub. But now that I know you framed a teacher, I don't feel a thing. The man in the black suit, impressed by Li Shulai's clever maneuver, said, boy, you did well. People like her, without remorse, deserve what's coming to them. You did the right thing. Li Shulai, satisfied with the evidence he gathered, turned to leave and said, it's none of my business now. I came to clear my teacher's name, and I've done my job. But before walking away, he looked back at Zhang Shuili one last time and reminded her, I warned you, if you use money to oppress others, you'll eventually drown in it. Zhang Shuili, trembling in disbelief, began to fully grasp the gravity of what was happening to her. The bald man laughed again and, with a sneer, said, a naturally lustful body like yours is perfect for selling. Zhang Shuili, watching Li Shulai walk away, after getting what he wanted, felt a surge of fury. She yelled after him, what are you pretending to be, you poor bastard? Who do you think you are? You have no real skills, just these fake, mysterious tricks. I was such a fool to believe in you. Her thoughts raced. I'm so stupid, I was actually scared by him earlier and thought he was mysterious. Suddenly the bald man grabbed her and lifted her onto his shoulder. They're all gone now. He sneered. There's no point in you shouting. He smacked her roughly and commanded, just follow along quietly. Furious and desperate, Zhang Shuili screamed at Li Shulai, don't think that recording will help you. No one will believe you. Teacher Guo will be disgraced and won't be able to show his face ever again. Hearing this, Li Shulai stopped in his tracks. He turned toward Zhang Shuili and replied coldly, dogs can't stop themselves from eating filth. I might as well tell you, I have more than enough money to pay off your debt right now. But it's a shame you didn't pass my final test. I only help those who show true remorse. Zhang Shuili, still furious, shouted, you can't fool me again. The man in the black suit, curious, told the bald man, wait a moment. This guy is interesting, put her down. Let's see how this plays out. The bald man said. Zhang Shuili down, and the man in the black suit smirked. Girl, he claims to be rich. Why don't you lower that proud head of yours and beg him? Maybe the little brother will soften his heart. Li Shulai looked at the man in the black suit and asked calmly, how much debt does her family have? 1 million? The man in the black suit nodded. Yes, no more, no less. Exactly 1 million. With that, Li Shulai took out his bank book and held it up, showing Zhang Shuili the proof of his wealth. The number in the account, $20 million. Zhang Shulai's eyes widened in disbelief. She ran toward Li Shulai, stunned by what she saw, unable to comprehend how this was possible. As she reached out to get a closer look at the bank book, Li Shulai quickly pulled it away, causing Zhang Shuili to fall to the ground. Looking down at her, Li Shulai said coldly, I brought this passbook with me, fully prepared to help your family pay off its debt. But I never imagined you wouldn't value the opportunity I was offering. He paused and added, Why can't you just show a little patience? You change your attitude the moment things don't go your way. Li Shulai smiled coldly at Zhang Shui Li and said, "Do you know why Fei Long Technology acquired your family's company?" "Because I made the introduction," Zhang Shui Li, in disbelief, murmured to herself. "This is impossible." Li Shulai looked at her with a mixture of pity and indifference. "Is there anything more painful than falling into hell?" he asked. "You had a clear chance to escape the quagmire, but because of a moment's poor judgment, you missed it. This is the worst-case scenario." He turned to the man in the black suit and said, "I don't want to be involved in Zhang Shulai's affairs anymore. Deal with her as you see fit, as if I was never here." The man in the black suit nodded and ordered his men to grab Zhang Shuili and put her in the car. Desperately, Zhang Shuili began begging Li Shulai, "Please, Li Shulai, I truly know I was wrong," but it was too late. The next day, on the university campus, Li Shulai, with the help of Zheng Ming, played the recording of Zhang Shuili's confession about framing Professor Guo. The recording echoed through the speakers. "That old man Guo's been blocking my graduation defense, refusing to let me pass my thesis, so I framed him, threw dirt on his name, and got him suspended, just to remove this obstacle from my path and pass my defense." Li Shulai's voice could be heard asking, "Did Teacher Guo sexually harass you?" Zhang Shuili's voice, trembling, responded, "No, Teacher Guo did not sexually harass me." Students all around the campus were shocked, murmuring in disbelief. "What is that sound?" A recording, some asked. "Is that Zhang Shuili's voice? Who's the man speaking?" Others were even more taken aback by the revelation. A rich, beautiful girl like her used her innocence to frame a professor, someone exclaimed. "I don't know who's responsible for this, but it seems like justice is finally being served," another remarked. "What a shame. Her voice is clear enough, but I can't recognize the man. At least Professor Guo should be able to clear his name now," another student commented. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, a female investigator reported to the principal, "I've heard that Zhang Shui's family has fallen. It seems someone with power is backing Professor Guo in all of this." The principal, unmoved, replied, "What I'm looking at is business as usual. Now that the truth is out, no one is answering Zhang Shui's calls. Let Professor Guo return to his teaching post. He's been wronged for far too long. It's outrageous that a student would falsely accuse a teacher just to pass her graduation defense. What happens if other students follow her example?" The female investigator agreed, saying, "That's exactly what the principal said." A man with glasses added, "In the future, we must prevent situations like this from escalating. It's crucial to stop this kind of unhealthy trend before it spreads." After such a scandal, rumors spread across the university campus about Zhang Shui. Some whispered Zhang Shui finally got what she deserved. "She hasn't shown up since the recording surfaced." As rumors swirled around campus, a student whispered, "I heard she dropped out. Her family went bankrupt or something terrible happened. It's such a shame to drop out so close to graduation. 4 years of study wasted," another remarked. Someone said they saw her working at a nightclub. "She looked completely different, but the person denied it was her. Who knows if it was really the rich girl?" This just proves the saying, "Every evildoer is punished by their own actions." Zhang Ming, overhearing their conversation, listened silently. Li Shuili, noticing, pulled him away, still eavesdropping. "Are you ready to queue up?" He teased. Zhang Ming chuckled and asked Shuli, "Who do you think?" "That kind-hearted person is the one who seems to know everything about our school." "Could it be one of our classmates?" Li Shulai calmly replied. "That person is me." Zhang Ming burst out laughing. "Impossible. Someone who could bring down the Zhang family would need tens of millions in assets. You're so poor." He cut in line ahead of Li Shulai and said, "Don't worry, I'm here with you, and I won't let you go hungry." Li Shulai grinned and teased, cutting in line, "Ha." He grabbed Zhang Ming and pulled him back. With a playful pout, Zhang Ming asked, "Brother, is this how you treat me? Why are you being so distant?" Li Shulai's eyes softened as he gazed across campus. "Professor Guo's crisis is resolved now. Things will go smoothly from here on out." A moment later, Zhang Ming asked, "I'm going to get a drink. Want anything?" Li Shulai shook his head. "No, thanks. I'll just enjoy my soup." Zhang Ming nodded and walked off to get his drink. Suddenly, Li Shulai noticed Xia Youning approaching him. She came straight to the point and asked, "I'm going to get a drink. You make that recording?" Li Shulai didn't respond and quietly continued eating his food. Xiaoning, not one to back down, said, "Not denying it is the same as admitting it. I could tell from the sound processing you're the only one who could have done it, and the only one who cared enough to." Li Shulai glanced up at her. "Since you already know, why are you asking?" Xiaoning, still pressing, asked, "What happened to Zhang Shuli? Who were those people? Why do you hate her so much?" "Yes, she slandered Teacher Guo. But does she really deserve this fate? We can't just stand by and let her die. We can't just hand her over to them." Li Shulai's expression turned cold. She was taken by her creditors. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to pretend to be some hero and rescue her. And besides, she's not even beautiful, despite his harsh words. He was inwardly impressed, thinking everyone else focused on the recording's content. But Xiaoning noticed the environment Zhang Zhali was in. Does she have an overflowing sense of justice? Xiaoning, visibly upset, asked, do you even know what will happen to her? Li Shulai, unbothered, replied, who knows? Some people are born bad and aren't worth saving. He then turned the conversation back to her. Did you ever think about what would have happened to teacher Guo if no one had helped him? He's lived a clean life, and she tried to destroy it. I didn't act for revenge, I was just trying to help him. Zhang Suili brought this on herself. Xiaoning, visibly upset, got up from her seat and stormed off. Zhang Ming, who was coming back with his drink, saw her and tried to talk to her. Xiaoning, what's wrong? He asked, but she was so angry that she didn't even acknowledge him. Confused, Zhang Ming muttered, did I say something wrong? Why does she have such a sour face? Li Shulai overheard and said teasingly, that's not a sour face. That's what they call a saintly face. Zhang Ming handed Li Shulai his drink and smiled. Between father and son, no need to say thank you. Li Shulai laughed, patting him on the back. Good son. Later, Li Shulai visited teacher Guo in his office. Overjoyed to see him, teacher Guo said, Ziolai, I'm really grateful for everything you've done for me. To be honest, I didn't know what to do back then. I even thought of ending it all to prove my innocence. Li Jiolai, slightly alarmed but not surprised, thought to himself, I knew you'd get stuck in that mindset. Teacher Guo continued, thankfully, your encouragement pulled me through. Without it, I wouldn't have seen the light at the end of this dark tunnel. Li Jiolai smiled, relieved that everything had been resolved in time. Teacher Guo reflected, it's heartening to know that there's still fairness in this world. I just wish I knew who was behind all this. Someone out there did the right thing without even leaving a name. Looking at Li Jiolai, teacher Guo added, now let's get back to revising our paper. Where did we leave off last time? After his conversation with teacher Guo, Li Jiolai met with Liu Kexin. She excitedly told him, it's been revised. The short story I submitted a few months ago got published. The magazine sent me a few sample issues. So I'm giving you one as a thank you to my #1 fan. Li Shulai, delighted, took the magazine. I'm honored. Now you must sign it for me. When you become famous, this autographed magazine will be worth a fortune, he thought to himself. I've seen major internet giants, cultivation world leaders, and even Yang Filong take Filong Technology public ahead of schedule. But nothing has made me this excited. Is chasing stars really what excites me the most? After my rebirth, smiling, Li Shulai said to Liu Kexin, I'll definitely read it carefully. However, Liu Kexin seemed a little down. Li Shulai, noticing her low spirits, asked, is something wrong? Liu Kexin tried to brush it off, saying, don't worry, it's nothing. But Li Shulai pressed gently. Come on, tell me I can offer some advice. After all, now that a great writer has sent me a book, I have to return the favor somehow. Liu Kexin, reassured by his words, opened up next week. My mom is bringing my younger brother to visit me. He's about to start high school, and my parents think the provincial capital's high schools are better. They've used their connections to get him into a school here, but since they both live in the countryside with their jobs, they want me as the older sister to take care of him. Li Shulai could sense there was more to the story. There's definitely something heavier weighing on her, he thought. Liu Kexin continued, my manuscript was published recently, and I earned a little money from it. My brother saw my name in the magazine and asked if it was really me. I didn't deny it. I wanted to prove to them that I could make it on my own, that their efforts raising me weren't in vain. But instead of being proud, my parents started thinking I could drop out of school and become a full-time writer to take care of my brother. My mom called me and said, you can write articles at home. Your brother's in high school now, which is a critical time. Drop out and take care of him. Liu Kexin tried to reason with her mother, explaining that she had worked hard to get into university, and her brother's grades are not that good. But her mother dismissed her concerns, saying, I don't care. With a top student like you helping him, he'll definitely get into a better university than yours. After hearing the full story, Li Shulai asked, what do you think? Liu Kexin, resolute, replied, dropping out is not an option. I'm not a product of feudal ignorance, and I will never sacrifice my future for my brother. Li Shulai smiled and said, good. As long as you stand firm, they can't force you into anything. You can continue writing, become financially independent, and free yourself from their control. Never give up on your writing. Liu Kexin felt a little better after hearing his encouraging words. I won't give up on my studies or my writing, she said, but it still hurts knowing my parents don't support my dreams. Li Shulai responded, sometimes, family is not the antidote to life. It can be the chain that holds us back. You know it's a chain, so don't let it drag you down. Keep moving forward.